And we are back.
We're back.
And this is not Michael.
I'm not?
No.
Oh, my goodness. Identity crisis.
We have the top 8 to go over quickly before we get into our quarterfinals showcase match. We have the top of the bracket, Peter Buddensiek on Kayo Armed and Dangerous, matched into Chris Iaali. This is going to be our showcase game here now, along with a Kano mirror between Ryan Brown and Eric. And
Ryan Brown.
Jonah Overholt versus Andrew Rudin, both on Rhinar. And then Anthony Pham with his favorite rematch from the last round of Swiss into Charles Dunn.
Looks like we just stuck a couple mirrors in between two of these
effectively,
matchups.
yeah.
It's pretty amazing. When was the last time you saw 2 Rhinars in a top 8?
I think before Heavy Hitters.
Yeah, maybe. Were you around during Welcome to Wraith?
Not quite that far back,
Okay,
no. But
gotcha.
like, I don't think so. No. Anyways, into the action. Peter is consulting his Fabry notes, or maybe checking Discord, but
There's no way. He's making a DoorDash order right now. Guaranteed. He's getting himself an espresso and an affogato. Chris Iaali looking on hungrily because Peter has not offered to add him to the DoorDash.
I don't think Peter wants that much coffee and, like, in particular.
He
like,
often looks a little
espresso.
bit caffeined out, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, but he doesn't want it in the top 8 if you've got, like, limited time between toilet breaks.
Yeah,
If
fair.
you know what I mean. Too much bean, bad for the scene.
Did you just make that up?
Yeah.
Wow, that was really brilliant. Wow, very happy to have you here sitting next to me. Looks like they've both drawn up their hands but are waiting for our go.
Mm.
In the meantime, let's talk about these two players, both of which make huge showings at a lot of different tournaments. Here's Chris Iaali's player profile. Let's see what he said about things. He was happy about Balance of Justice and hopes to see more generic tech cards that offer counterplay. Maybe we'll see more of those in some Armory decks as well.
Could be.
He likes Alan Lube a lot.
Spark of Genius.
That makes a lot of sense because he beat Alan Lube at the last AG. Chris loves anybody he just decimates. Oh my gosh, his nemesis is the same as mine. Zachary Wallach is also my nemesis. Beat him in round 3 today, by the way.
Hey, at least he's not at your armory every week.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's very
Zach.
true.
Sorry, Zach.
He was telling me he had a tough time at his armory last week.
He did because I think he matched into Kayo all night and just got absolutely clobbered with
Gotcha.
like all the angels in hand and just goes, yeah, my hand doesn't block. I'm dead. And then he went home after round 3.
That's too funny. Chris is my illustrious leader, my team captain for Team AGE. Very proud to see him making a top 8 showing once again at 2 AGEs back-to-back. Feels like he's really got that home turf advantage. Here we go, into the action. Chris on Kassai.
Looks like we got Chris put first by Peter as first seed.
And Peter's already giving equipment blocks.
Incredible.
My goodness, does that mean he has 2 non-blocks in hand?
I think it's owed to the fact that he's got at least 1 non-block in hand, yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunate. And it's rough for KO too, because if you've got 1 non-block in hand, I mean, not on turn 0, but in other cases, you kind of have 2 non-blocks in your hand because you really need to be able to play something. Oh, this is not a bad clapback, though.
Well, look at that. We just got Blood Rush again.
We take those.
Discard a Mighty Wind Up.
You love to see blues go here because maybe that means they're going to draw into an all-red and kind of brick the turn. Has that not been your experience?
When I'm playing a Brute, it happens to me. When anyone else plays Brute, no, they have it.
Yeah, you've been messing around with Brute, haven't you?
I played a bit of Rhinar recently. I got to using the Rainbow Foil from RTN season.
Okay.
Because that's the only way you can get him as a rainbow or a non-foil printing.
Pulping is not a bad start for Peter. Discarding a Swing Big, though, probably would have rather had that for the continuation of this Blood Rush turn.
Yeah.
8 Dominate, however, nothing to shake your hat at.
I think you called it in that he's now got himself all reds. He was probably ideally trying to draw a blue off this pulping, but accidentally sent his biggest hit on a Blood Rush turn into the graveyard instead.
Oh my gosh, and Chris has a pretty solid follow-up here. Valiant Dynamo is just being a value engine for Kassai, but he also finds a Take It on the Chin, which is going to basically make it so he can swing both of those sabers next turn without really having any... Oh my goodness.
2 reds into the pitch zone for Claw.
See, now, I have been in this position as a Brute many, many times where...
Levia.
yeah, exactly. And gotta make you feel bad for Peter a little bit. Not to mention that Peter, I think, has said that he thinks this matchup is 100% free for KO. This is what I heard from my producer earlier. So far, it's looking like Chris is in a pretty happy spot.
You know what they say about people that say a matchup is a guaranteed buy?
Oh, what do they say about the people that say things?
The player and the mains on the other end of the bracket, or pardon me, on the other end of the matchup say the exact same thing. Remember the discourse of, Dromai doesn't lose into Guardian.
90 matchups and all that?
90-10s on either end. Guardian can't lose into Dromai.
Okay. Looks like it's a pretty easy clapback for Chris. Just 2 saber, 2 saber. Arsenal pass.
I mean, it becomes a 1-card 5, even when pitching a yellow because of the agility. Removing Dynamos, going 2 and 2.
Okay, and not much. It looked like Peter had a little bit of room here because Chris's turn wasn't all that intense. Instead, it's just going to be an assault and battery, beat chest, hope to set up for next turn. So Chris is really hoping that he didn't get caught with all of his D-reacts. Sure doesn't look like he did, though. I definitely saw a slice and dice.
Take a peek at that hand.
Oh my gosh, new features!
Yes.
I haven't been in the booth in a little while.
2 red slice and dice. Really good with the shift the tide of battle.
Yeah, no doubt.
But does he have a blue? He does. He's got hold the line.
Oh my goodness.
So Chris, yeah.
Got to get his free block from the Valiant Dynamo. Otherwise, I kind of feel like we're just going to see him take the rest of this. Depends on what's in the arsenal, of course. You would love it to be like a Blade Flurry or in the swing. But it could even just be a D-React, and he'll wait for a better turn. Maybe wait for another pulping to come his way.
Could do.
Stuff that right in his bag.
Oh, he'll do it now.
Okay. Yeah, there's no way he sinks here. That hand is just too clean.
I think he has to still be wary of laying too many front pumps down before the Blade Runner, because Peter still has access to Scowling Flashbag.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And Chris, being an amazing player, sees it himself. I do believe that Chris was telling me that he got decimated by another of our teammates, Moises' Scowling Fleshbag, earlier today. He had 3 cards in hand, and Scowling Fleshbag hit the one source of go again that he had.
It can happen to you.
Yeah.
Variants on both ends.
This is your brain, and this is your brain on Brute. So here we go. Slice and dice. Going to make this saber for 3. If Chris does indeed get a chance to swing the next saber and doesn't get fleshbagged, Slice and Dice is going to buff the next saber for even more.
I don't even know even if Peter wants to cash in fleshbag now anyways.
Yeah, it's usually weird too on turns where like Kassai isn't really threatening any on hits. It's not like Chris has activated Kassai and is threatening a gold token. That being said, Chris is really taking advantage of the no block, playing Shift the Tide of Battle, not only giving this go again, but also saving a go again in the form of an agility token for the next turn.
And he gets a Brave Forge activation here.
Yeah,
because
he's got that one extra floating.
His Shift the Tide is a 0, and he pitched blue. So he gets to Kassai. He'll remember to Brave Forge, surely. There we go.
And so Chris kind of also showcasing why he elected to just fire off that sink below last turn. Because he kept back the other Slice and Dice and protected against the Scowling Fleshbag block, he's going to get to Arsenal this and just consistently get the max value off of every single card he sees.
Yeah, he's honestly keeping up with the numbers that Peter has presented thus far, even with a Blood Rush. Like, Peter's Blood Rush was... It started with a blue, but it had to end with double red, so it wasn't fantastic. And then on his follow-up turn, he sees 3 blues. So probably not too pleased with that cut of the first half of his deck.
It would be unfortunate, except for the fact that Kayo is an unlosable matchup. or Kassai is an unlosable matchup for Kayo. It's amazing. I'm throwing so much shade Peter's way, and I don't even know his actual take. Justin might just be wanting me to... flame him on the stream. I don't know why. Maybe they had a dispute over lunch. Let's see what Peter's got here. This is a great start. Runner does what?
7 go again. Reproduce your agility token.
And boy, do we love go again on the Brute side and the Warrior side. Chris is holding on to an agility token on his turn. So it would be unfortunate if he had to block. He's also got a Spoils of War. Is that 2? That's 2 Spoils of War in hand. So he is very redundant in terms of his go again. Which is kind of an interesting spot here. Incentivizes him to block. There we go. Throw on 1 Spoils of War in front. Kassai is interesting because all of her cards kind of like go along with the same game plan. There's not really that many bad ones. But if they do get clumped together, it can make things very awkward.
Yeah. Especially if you're handed back the turn without your opponent doing much to you. Like, you don't have much to filter. When you're on grains, it's good to sink some of that value into paying for Vigor tokens to carry into next turn, but Chris is on Tunic here, and Tunic alone in this list, so he has just to work the cards.
Here we go, seeing our first Scabskins activation.
Rolling a 3.
Unpunished is Peter. That's interesting. Okay, I didn't see the other card in his hand.
Okay.
So I wonder what he was hoping for. He pitched a red for that Bear Fangs. I wonder what he was hoping for if he had gotten the 4 on the Scabs. Could that other card be a blue? Yeah, I don't know how he would have.
No, he was holding 2 reds, so
Maybe he was thinking about popping Savage Sash.
true, because he would get in. He would roll scabs. He gets 2 action points. He can probably pack hunt and then guarantee the bear fangs on the follow up.
That's interesting. It seems like kind of an early time to block it, especially, or I mean, pop it because he hasn't blocked with it yet.
It's very true.
And in we like to call decks like Kassai point goblin decks, where basically you're just eking out every last little point of value that you can. I mean, the boots are quintessential to that game plan. It would seem a little bit presumptuous to just throw away 2 block.
This is also really good because Chris, with the agility and leading with the non-attack, means that he does not suffer from flashback this turn.
Certainly.
Because everything's accounted for. He already has an action point with an agility.
And Peter definitely seems to know that, holding back that flashback for the optimal time.
Yeah.
Does have to block with a Cast Bones, though. That, I feel like, telegraphs a draw discard card in his hand.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want Cast Bones in your hand as a liability. Yeah, I see the Wild Ride now.
Well, he's going to Blood Rush first.
With the Blood Rush.
Unfortunately, has to get rid of the Wild Ride.
He's got 2 floating going into this Blood Rush, though, so it's going to be a free Claw Swing.
2 new ones. What do we see from him?
A Cast
Bones and a Wild Ride.
Oh, no.
This is not what he wanted.
No, it kind of depends on what's in that arsenal. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, this could be really problematic.
He does have an agility popping here, but he's going to rip.
Here goes the Savage Sash. Swing big.
But this only costs 1.
Pretty amazing. Okay, so this is 11 go again. Chris will get a quicken if he blocks it out. But that's a bit of a tall order when 11 is the number. So now Peter is floating 1. He's going to probably just go for the Wild Ride. Worst comes to worst, he's gotten a ridiculous amount of damage through. Best comes to best, he draws a 6, discards that 6, and still gets to throw a Cast Bone at the end of his turn.
I think... that's true. I was thinking there was another line where he actually pitches his Wild Ride to Claw and guarantees a Cast Bone, but he wants to maximize that value on Savage Sash, so yeah, he's locked into this play now.
Yeah. And the Blood Rush turns like really have you going for as much damage as you possibly can, because you know these Kassai games can get a little bit grindy. And when you've already got a Blood Rush that kind of got stuffed by your own deck, you got to make this one count. So here comes Chris with a lot of equipment. Balance is blocked here. Can pop it before the turn is over in order to get an extra card. Chris gets his Quicken token. We've discussed this a lot in our team discourse about whether or not swing bigs are worth taking out against warriors. And maybe Chris is going to be able to showcase
the shrugs from either of them, where he's like, okay.
What you got? What you got?
I guess.
Let's go, Peter. Yep.
Ooh.
You've got to send this here. I believe Peter's told Chris that there's a miss here.
Pick a card. Any card.
Peter, always a fan of fun. There's no question about that.
I wonder what's in his Texas Hold'em hand here.
Is he holding 2 Cowboys? Chris is probably ordering some... I think he's trying to figure out a priority window for when he can pop this balance.
Yeah, because he might want the card on blockers.
Oh!
Never punished!
Wowee. Peter showcasing why he is a talented Flesh and Blood player.
Hey, sometimes you just need to be lucky and good at the game.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's mainly how you make it through Swiss.
Really, yeah. Really, you need both of those 2 things to align for you on a given day to make it through all the killers that are here.
Because at the end of the day, we saw that this was a calculation he took on this hand. He blocked with the other Cast Bones, and then he drew into another copy. So
the good thing about that is with 2 Blood Rushes and 2 Cast Bones out of your deck, you don't really have to worry about those draw discards for the rest of the game.
That's true. He's eliminated the amount of whiffs considerably.
And if he sees one, well, he's bad at the game. Chris in the tank here. Still got No, I want the hand button.
That's the
yeah.
one.
Oh, thanks for showing me
So
your
a
hand.
sink
Chris.
below.
Sink
He's got a
below.
blue hit and run. Is that? Oh, he's nourishing is there.
Emptiness. Interesting. So nourishing is probably not that great of a card here, considering how much armor is still left on Peter's side of the board.
Yes, true.
Especially because he's got the -1 counter on Apex already, which means that plus scab skins plus a card is like really clean way to just block out nourishing
Yeah,
emptiness.
it will be.
Yep. He's not losing any value there, and Chris is not gaining a whole lot just by playing a 2 for 6.
I think he could. He's saying no blocks. He might be baiting it out because he's got a quick in here, so he can
That's
lead with a
true.
saber swing. Maybe spook Peter.
Yeah, but how bad would that feel if then he goes flashback
Okay.
finally, hits a nourishing emptiness?
Here we go. Let's see the cast bones. How many did we hit?
Yep.
6.
It could only be that after the amount of
Okay, 7 and agility. That's pretty good.
Is Peter running a reckless swing? No reckless swings. That's really interesting.
Does he have any defense reactions in this list?
It doesn't look like it to me. But yeah, no.
No
defense
fear
reactions.
either. Interesting.
Peter's not scared. He doesn't need no fear to prove that.
So this list is purely all gas, no brakes.
Yes, 100%. And I'm seeing a lot of KO players heading in that direction, right? Like a lot of the people I play with are even starting to cut cast bones. I know Michael Hamilton has done that pretty much from the beginning. I think at PTLA he was on no cast bones. Just consistency is king when it comes to these premier aggro decks.
Ooh,
So here goes Chris leading off with the Nourishing Emptiness, probably because that Scowling Flesh Bag is still in existence. He's going to force Peter to give him a significant amount of armor here, which does mean that if Chris comes at him with another relevant on hit later on in the game, he might have to give up that Flesh Bag for no value.
That's true. And no one ever wants to do that.
No, certainly not. But hey, it still blocks 2 when it comes down to it.
I don't remember what Chris pocketed in Arsenal.
It's still the Slice and Dice, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it hasn't left.
Yeah. Which does make this turn a little clunky because he's got the sink below in hand.
Yep.
So he does have a gold token. So maybe Chris is thinking pitch the sink below to the gold token, make his swords free. Oh, and here comes the Flesh Bag.
Ooh, Peter's got a 2 block that he's making use of.
Yeah, he's definitely... Peter's definitely getting some value here. There's no question about that. Chris will determine how much. I'm sure he is... Okay, so he uses the tunic counter.
Go back up to the 1
He's
card.
got to find a source of... Oh, it was the spoils after all.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay, I must have just misseen
Oh,
that.
it was 2 spoils in hand when we talked about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Now this.
Now this is a turn.
That's pretty insane. So no matter what he would find, even if he has to pitch red, he loses nothing, and he's still got a sink below in hand to put into Arsenal on the following turn.
Chris showcasing why he is such a strong player. He's also got 4 copper in his pocket, and tell us why that's important, Marcus.
I mean, once you approach a certain number, your little card called Blood on Her Hands, you can do like a little Lumina without life gain.
Blood on her hands. Tell me, why does Kassai have blood on her hands?
She does a lot of mercenary sellsword work.
Fascinating.
Actually, on mention of that, I don't want to take away from the game for too long, because we have a 11 power E-Strike, but the...
Oh, no, whatever's going on here is inconsequential. Tell me what you're thinking.
The design of adult Kassai, of Golden Sand, the fact that you banish both reds and yellows, you have red for the blood and yellow for the sand. It's really well designed. I love that.
You're such an artist.
Like when mechanics and design,
Flavor.
and themes, flavor all mix, it's really good. And
Yeah.
this game is full of it.
I absolutely agree. I mean, like, the way the heroes feel. Like, honestly, I didn't know what a rune blade was before I played Flesh and Blood, but once I saw Viscerai, I was like, that's it. big shout out to the design team and all the artists that are involved in making this game that we love so much. There's a reason, right? If it was just cards with names and numbers, it wouldn't be what it is.
No, it would just be mathematics and we'd be a bit bored. Shout outs to MJ for doing fantastic borders set after set.
Who's MJ?
One of their, I think she's the main graphic designer at LSS.
Gotcha.
So she's responsible for nearly every border you've ever seen in this game.
That's what's up. Thank you very much, MJ. I like all your work. So anyway, Chris is making a decision now. See, that didn't cost us anything in terms of attention on the game. You got us right to the blocking section. Here comes Shift at the Tide of Battle and Fate Foreseen. Take a look at that Opt. Opt is, oh my gosh, Chris has an amazing blocking hand here because not only does he have the Sink Below in Arsenal, he had a Fate and a Sink Below in hand. The cool thing about Fate Foreseen with Sink Below is that he gets to look at the card.
He'll sink that other card.
He'll sink that other card if he liked it, which it looks like he did. He put it on top, but he says no sink. Probably just wants it for a future turn.
Claw for just 3.
That's interesting, yeah. Peter's just saving that last card for Arsenal.
Yeah, Peter also hasn't made his might for the turn off of Kayo. Oh, but I stand corrected. He's just going to remake it now.
Okay.
Not
bad. Chris gets to Arsenal another D-React and won't be facing down a Cast Bones next turn.
Yeah, blue wind-up will do you no good in the Arsenal, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely better in the graveyard.
Chris just does a little episode of the podcast Arsenal Pass. Gives it back to
I'm pretty
Peter.
sure that's copyrighted.
No.
Brennan a little pissed about that?
We'll go Armory and give it back to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back hunt with Go again.
So we're going to get the Intimidate on Peter's turn this time, rather than on Chris's turn with the Flesh Bag. Let's see what he hits.
And one day, someone will bring a D8 to do Intimidate #1 on a 4-card hand. But until then, they'll go, yeah, I'll re-roll 5s and 6s, and then roll a 5 and a 6 before you get to it.
I can see that this is something that bothers you. I am one of those brutes that do that, by the way.
Come on, man. Just buy a set for D&D. It's got a D8 in it.
Yeah, screw it. Anarchy. Anarchy! So here comes 7 Go again. Thanks to the Might token and the Agility token created by the Agile Windup that Peter discarded rather than Arsenal.
And Chris has got... There's a Hold the Line. He's got a Fate Foreseen. A yellow?
This is the unfortunate side of Hold the Line, right? You draw it after you've already seen 2 Blood Rushes from your opponent. You're like, I am never going to get...
It's like an awkward blue.
Yeah.
It reminds me of blue unmovable.
So it kind of incentivizes... You're like, I'd really just rather use this as a pitch card at this point. Because if I play it, then I am actively losing 1 value over a 3 block.
Oh, there's a Blood on her hands. I wonder if he'll sink it so he can find a better blocking card.
Yeah, that's interesting because Blood on her hands with a blue pitch is honestly not a bad turn.
No.
When your opponent's at 14. In my last round of Swiss, I had an opponent do a 2 copper Blood on her hands turn, I believe when I was at like 9 or 12, and it threatened lethal. So
it still will, yeah. It's
you
a couple of swings.
It's one of those cards that can really get out of her hands, I suppose. And put the blood on your face. So Chris, he no longer had a card in Arsenal because of the Sink
Yeah, he played the
Below?
Sink Below from Arsenal. So
he's happy to see this send packing right here.
yeah, he was on top of any possible Command and Conquer and send packings.
Raphael Elias Fabris. There were no Vinsets today, I don't believe.
There was one.
There was one.
There was one single
Oh, yeah, I
Vincent.
sat next to him.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy. I lost to him at the first AG I came to this year.
Oh, okay.
He was on Nebula Blade, and he smoked me. Yeah, he's a sweet guy. He's a Hidden Fortress local.
Okay, we've got Kassai Banish here.
First one of the game, if I'm not mistaken. And Chris is, being diligent about finding the attack action, so
Chris,
way...
Yeah, Chris
Nourishment
did one earlier.
He did?
Yeah. Because he's played balance in this matchup. And this is very, very interesting.
So yeah, here we go. Exactly what we talked about. 4 copper.
He's choosing his modes.
Unfortunately, this is a silent movie over here, so we don't know what they are. Okay, so we've got 2 buffs, I'm guessing, on the Centauri
He was
Saber.
declaring the buffs first before the swing, because he has not drawn a card this turn. So he will still have to pay for his sword swings.
My heart goes out to Kassai players that have to pay for their swords.
It still threatens a copper here, actually, on any of the swings that connect
Correct.
this turn.
Which
Well, the
could
first
help
one,
for the
probably.
next. Okay, blood is on Chris's hands. He has banished both blood and sand from his graveyard. Peter is in the tank.
With all that blood and sand, you need like a, what is it, a Clorox wipe?
I thought you were going to say an emulsifier.
I thought blood was an
Dishwasher at the
emulsifier.
very least.
Detergent my hands so I can hold my saber properly.
Well, you got, oh, and there's the last cast bones in Peter's hand.
That's
along
fairly
with an
good,
E-strike.
actually, because it won't turn on the saber +1.
That's true, and that's critical here because that +1 will remain on for the rest of the turn.
Yep.
If Peter gives Chris an attack action card. So he really doesn't want to do it on the first one.
Can you put the 2 counters on 1 sword, says Jace? I believe you can.
Yes.
You can double up on modes on 1 sword, as opposed to splitting it across 2. It basically bolsters breakpoints and makes it awkward.
The caveat is that you can't choose the same mode more than twice.
Correct.
This is 7. I don't...
So I think what he's probably chosen is...
Has not given it go again yet.
I think he did give it.
Oh, no, probably with blood on her hands.
Yeah, so he gave a go again, a +1, and an additional swing.
Yep.
And then
There
probably
you are.
a +1 on the other saber, because he's done 4 modes.
Yeah, we should mention, it's very notable that Chris is running both sabers into this matchup.
Yeah.
Normally, the kit seems to be, the preferred kit for most Kassais seems to be Hot Streak
Yeah.
and Centauri Saber.
This is the old way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is harkening back to Kassai Blitz days, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Those were scary times.
Peter will put this up to a 5, because he knows this is the last swing of that saber. And then...
Here comes our second saber, just for 2. Yeah,
Okay.
looking a little scary on Peter's end. He's got to have a big clapback here, and he doesn't have an agility token that KOs normally need very much. Oh, but it doesn't matter. He's got an E-strike.
I think he's doing an E-strike go again, and then cast boning.
Yep.
Yeah. He's
Which is
boning
not
up.
a bad setup here.
But he's out of armor.
Chris, however, is going to cover up one of these for free, can give him 1 additional card, and probably have a really fearsome clapback if his hand lined up. I see a Blade Runner. That's a good start.
Yeah, Chris has 3 armor block.
We have a run-through as well, so a little bit redundant on the go again, once again. 2 run-throughs and a Blade Runner.
He can give one of these.
So with a blue, yeah, he does have a gold.
He could pop his gold to use all of this and just stack it up on
Exactly.
the second saber.
Exactly. And I think that is going to be enough pressure to at least strip Peter from most of
Yeah.
the cards in his hand.
Mm.
Because after he plays this last card, he doesn't have anything in Arsenal. Peter's
No.
got to keep at least a card to swing with Claw, but he's also got to probably keep 2 cards to swing anything significant.
Yeah. So Chris can play a bit of game of chicken by swinging a naked saber after a gold draw and keep all of the information hidden. Ooh.
And that's
he
not
gets
a bad
to
way to
preview
cover it
what he
up.
draws.
My goodness.
Although,
Or the option to get rid of it.
he's mulling it over.
What do you think he's hoping for in this situation to be on top of his deck?
I think actually he would love an in the swing.
And in the swing, sounds
So
good.
one of the 0 reactions, because it's really good on the second saber, where they think they've blocked it all out, and you got 1 card, and you go, here's 3.
Blade Furry might even be better, just from a number standpoint. But
Oh, absolutely.
you're right. In the swing has got the gotcha factor. Yes, thank you, Jace. That was a Freudian slip there. I do, in fact, know that it's Flurry, not Furry.
The Blade McFlurry from McDonald's.
Props to anybody who can draw up a furry Centauri Saber so that I can give it to Chris after this.
It's not sharp, it's soft. Confirmed you're a furry fan. We got him. We got him.
That's my teammate, Josh. making sure that I know that I made a mistake in front of people who I care about.
So, unfortunately, I think, yeah, he doesn't make the agility to this cast bones, but
Which, let's be real, the agility is just not going to be relevant
and
based on what Chris has to
I think
swing
what
at.
actually might be relevant, because Peter has like no armor and life really left to bargain with, he might just block with this Blood Rush because it doesn't turn on sabers.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go, popping the gold.
Like we talked about, Chris does not know what card this is. Finds the end of swing. Oh my gosh.
Peter's days might be numbered.
Oh, that is so devastating. Oh, tough break for a free matchup. Here we go. Sorry, Peter.
That one's going to be rubbed in. As
So
long as... Oh, okay. Ooh,
so good news for Peter. He's getting an agility token.
However,
Chris
we've got
says,
one of many reactions.
I'm going to show you why you messed up.
As a Kassai player, I'm proud. That's good.
He is really running through.
Mm-hmm.
Chris is running a 12K through.
Run, through. Runner, through.
Oh, no. Here's 6. Peter has 6 to cover it up. He technically has the additional 3. Chris could get in by 1. Let's see if Peter can sniff out.
He would put
the
it
end
to
swing.
7. Would take 1.
Goes up to 7. There's no way he doesn't fire the in the swing here, I don't think, right?
Yeah, he has to for the threat. Because Peter goes to 1, and any saber is like a Kodachi lock now. Here we go.
Cool. Does look like Peter's going to get the value off of his cast bones, though. He will be able to send a claw, which is not much, but when it's pumped by 5.
1 card 8.
Yeah. And Chris is through a lot of his defense reactions. So perhaps this 8 is going to be a little more threatening.
I think I saw another blood on her
I
hands.
did. With 1 copper, though, there's no way that gets deployed.
No, that's probably a block here.
The spoils is all he needs to continue to threaten.
I mean, if he wants just the clean 2-card hand, even if he doesn't, he still gets to block 4.
Yeah.
And only take 4.
Yeah, and as long as he's refreshing that Dynamo counter, he's in a good spot.
He probably is giving Brave Forge out of brute habit, because you don't want to be at 2 or less life into a brute.
Certainly not. And I don't... we're not open deck lists, right?
I
don't believe we are. In the past, when I've been in top 8, we haven't had deck lists. So Chris might still think that Peter is running that reckless swing.
Okay.
Right, right. Right. Nourishing, threatening, dominate. Chris says, I don't even need to refresh my dynamos. I just think
That's game.
Peter blocks with a no block. And that's game.
That was pretty intense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Really well done. Really well played by Chris. Well played by Peter as well, but some brute things just really did not go his way.
Yeah, he had a really bad Blood Rush first turn, or the first Blood Rush, pardon me, in that he had to pitch away a CNC and like another red. That was pretty terrible. I think that's probably that little bit of value that really got Chris over the finish line.
100%. Because, sorry, Cosmic Octopus, in answer to your question, it was Savage Sash that Peter Buddensiek was running. He popped it in order to throw a Wild Ride and a Swing Big on a Blood Rush turn, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Moving on. Well, different button. Not that button. That button.
That's the one.
Thank you. So Chris takes down Peter Buddensiek. In the other parts of the bracket, Eric Dauernnheim took down Ryan Brown, my nemesis. So that means the Kano mirror went in his favor. Andrew Rudin
took down Jonah.
The leader of my carpool, took down Jonah Overholt in a devastating, I'm sure, Rhinar showdown. We're still undecided on Charles Dunn and Anthony Pham. That makes me think it's going Charles Dunn's way a little bit.
I think so, because if it's dragged out long enough, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Like, Charles has probably gained some ground in the like long game.
Yeah.
Anthony had some like underrate turns basically.
For a man whose personal motto is boost, 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 you don't want the game to be going super long.
Screw and boost.
Yeah. Or other words. Don't go anywhere. In just a moment, we are going to have an interview with none other than Chris Iaali, and we're going to find out more about how he took down that unwinnable matchup. See you in just a minute.
Don't go away.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back, as promised, with the victor of our last match, Mr. Chris Iaali. How you feeling, Chris?
Yeah, it was a tough game.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah, I mean, felt close.
You made it look
Well,
easy,
That's a
honestly.
lot harder than my other brute games.
Is
so,
that right?
Yeah.
Have you faced a lot today?
I faced one other one other KO, and
Gotcha.
it was a little more one-sided.
I see. Well, I'm glad you got here because you're sitting next to me now. And you smell great, by the way. Let's start by addressing the elephant in the room, or should I say the duck in the room. You have developed a very fascinating strategy for picking your heroes at these tournaments.
Right.
Walk me through it.
Yeah, it started last month, or I guess it started a while ago, where for our locals, our giveaways, the way Anthony would do it was with a duck randomizer.
What is a duck randomizer for
Or
the
a
people
duck
that don't know?
race randomizer, and basically you can put a bunch of names in, and whichever duck wins the duck race, that's the winner of the raffle. And so I started doing that with my deck list, my
That's
deck
amazing.
choices, and it's been working out so far.
Yeah,
so.
clearly. How many
Yeah.
ducks are in every race?
At least 4, yeah.
Okay, and your ducks this time were?
So the way we do it is the player gets to choose 2 of their own possible choices, and then the guys that have been staying at my house have been choosing the other ones, and so
The guys that have been staying at your house, who are those guys?
the Arizona guys, yeah.
Yeah.
So Jonah and shout out to Jonah.
Part of Team AGE, by the way. They're not just random people that live in Chris's house.
Yeah, and Jake and stuff, and so Yeah, so my 2 decks for this weekend were going to be Max and Kassai, and then I was really leaning towards Max going into the weekend. And if I had to choose a second deck, I wanted to mess around with Kassai a little bit because I think the deck's fine, but I haven't actually put any work into it yet. And then, of course, Jonah chose Rhinar for me.
Of course.
Yeah, he's playing Rhinar today and doing really well. And then the other option was Victor again. Yeah, Jake chose Victor, so.
So I take it Victor is not your choice of duck.
No. If they want me to play it, I'll play it, but
Yeah. The duck decides.
yeah.
Well, that's great. I am really happy that we're going to continue to see more ducks posted in our Discord because that's probably one of my favorite things about coming to a
Yeah, they
tournament.
got cool costumes and everything.
Yeah, I know. They're really adorable, honestly. Everybody should get on this duck train. Okay, so anyway, enough about the ducks. Let's dive into the game.
Okay.
So first of all, you got a piece of equipment on turn 0. That must have felt
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it was a pretty big tell that he probably had something like Blood Rush in his hand
Mm-hmm.
that he wanted to keep because he was expecting the matchup to be a race. And so, yeah, got the equipment, got some damage in, but the last card I had in my hand was Blood on Her Hands. And I didn't want to arsenal it that early, so I didn't really end up with an arsenal, but I think it was still a pretty good first turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And how happy are you to see that Blood Rush turn come back on the on his swing back?
Yeah, I think it was. I don't really remember what his entire hand was, but it did feel like it wasn't that impactful. And maybe it could have been like a 5-card hand, like just Arsenal Blood Rush and play it, but I'm not really sure what his entire hand was. I don't remember that much.
Basically, he just ended up discarding a blue, and then he had to pitch 2 reds to swing a claw
Right, I
after his
remember-
first attack. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that much. But yeah, I mean, he did really well with the deck today, so
Yeah.
I'm sure he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm going to keep up with this hearsay. Justin told me that before the matchup, Peters has been blabbing about how Kassai is free for KO. What do you have to say about that now?
I mean, yeah, he did tell me to my face that he was going to beat me. I just asked him to make it close, and it was a close game.
It was
but,
definitely close. He made it a little bit too close is what it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the matchup definitely feels closer than it did before the new HSB Savage. What's it called?
Savage Sash.
Sash, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which he got some significant value off of that.
Yeah, no, it was good, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was really impressive. Definitely beat out definitely beat out a hardened cross trap. I mean, it was a hardened cross trap that blocked 2 in that game, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, can you believe that he played Wild Ride with cast buns in his hand?
The man's insane. But I don't think, we were talking about that turn a lot before he went for it. Did he tell you, by the way, that there was one of the cards was cast bones?
So he paused before it, and he was looking at his scabs, and I was like, no way. Because you only have 1 resource floating, so what's he going to do? And so it was pretty obvious that it was cast bones.
Sure.
So, yeah.
You guys both seem to be kind of hamming up the discard. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So going through this and seeing so many brutes today, and this being like the first time you've really put work into Kassai, do you feel like you have any tips for the people out there, the Kassai players at their locals who have been having trouble with KO?
Yeah, obviously one of the trickiest things in the matchup is to play around Scowling Flesh Bag. One of the turns in that game, I had double red slice and dice and a reaction to give go again, but I couldn't just like play both red slice and dices and then attack with 1 saber, 1 card left in hand, because then that's just like a super easy Scowling Flesh Bag for him, and then I'll lose out on all the value. So I kept the extra slice and dice in my hand so that if he did flesh back, then at least it's like 50-50. But he chose not to flesh back. I arsenaled it. And then on future turns, what you want to do is you want to typically arsenal your go-agains, because that's how you play around the flesh bag the easiest. But yeah, you're just trying to make sure you get both sabers every turn and reset those dynamos.
Absolutely. One more thing I want to touch on before I let you go, prepare for your next matchup. We've been talking a lot about whether or not the brutes should be including swing bigs against Kassai, because sometimes it just feels like giving them a quicken token plays right into their hand. we saw you block out a massive swing big and have a pretty solid clapback. How do you feel? Can you read into that discussion any more now?
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty solid argument for cutting it. I know from my side, I'm gonna block and get the quicken every time, get that extra value. But if it lines up for them where it's like at the end of a Blood Rush turn where they've already taken a bunch of cards from my hand, then I can't really block it out and use the quicken token, then it can be good. Like it's still 2 for 8, but or 1 for 8 when you pop the sash.
Yeah, totally.
So, like I understand the reasoning for both sides, but maybe it's just not a 3-up in the matchup. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, more on that, I'm sure, as we move into our next matchup, which is going to be Andrew Rudin. Right? We decided on this? Andrew Rudin versus Charles Dunn.
Oh, wow.
And I'm showcasing my professionalism. Well, Chris, any last words before you prepare for your next match?
Oh, thanks for tuning in.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate
Have
it.
a good one. Best of luck.
Thank you.
And you, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Flesh and Blood after this.
Welcome back, everyone. Cutting up to our semifinals here, we have Charles Dunn versus Andrew Rudin up next on the camera. One playing Rhinar, the other playing Dorinthea. Great axe build, so this will be a bit of a grind, a classic battle, if you will. I'm not the first to make that joke, but I got to say it on camera.
And we're all better for it.
Yeah, so if we have our top 8 graphic, we can see who's still left in the tournament. Maybe we'll switch over to that. Chris, Iaali, against Eric Dauernnheim on Kano. Not a great matchup for the Kassai. Of course, everybody here is rooting for Chris. We hate Kano. We love Chris. We're hoping he can make it through. But it's not looking good from what I've heard from both people. It's going to be a very difficult matchup for Chris. And the match we'll be watching, Andrew Rudin on Rhinar Reckless Rampage versus... That's not right, Anthony. It should be Charles Dunn. Yeah, it's all right. A little mistake. Charles Dunn made it through. Anthony got kicked out. Anthony Blam.
Yeah, he is no longer allowed in the store, in fact. We've kicked him straight to the curb.
Yeah.
He'll be spending the night
sick of that face.
on the street.
So coming up on our screen shortly, we'll have Charles Dunn versus Andrew Rudin. And both of these decks are a little bit on the grindier side, so we're going to see a good old-fashioned slugfest with some D-reacts and some axe swings, reducing the value of all those blocks.
Yeah, absolutely. Charles is definitely looking for this game to go a little bit longer,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Andrew is generally pretty okay with that game plan into most other matchups. Now, Andrew has something very important in his back pocket, and that is a little keyword called Intimidate.
True.
What does Intimidate do?
It scares the cards right out of your hand. You can't block with them. You have to sit there in the banish zone.
And that can be kind of a problem for Charles Dunn,
Yeah.
who is the fatigue master
True.
of Southern California.
If I recall in the past, Rhinar was a popular pick into Oldham for that reason. Am I right about that? Kind of stripping all the defensive cards out of their hands so that they couldn't block you out and just forcing the damage through. And we see Andrew Rudin here bringing the claws in, probably going to be on the aggressive end of this match with Dorinthea using that Great Axe, hoping to stall the game out long enough to just get that grindy value.
He definitely knows that he is going to have to bring the damage against the Dunster.
Yep.
Let's see, though. Andrew is running Blood Rushes in his deck. Our other teammate, Jonah Overholt, his list today brought 0 Blood Rushes and clearly worked out for him because he did end up in top 8.
Yep.
But maybe that was the difference that got Andrew there.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out later.
Yeah.
But here we go, looking like a pretty traditional Rhinar build nowadays with Claws and the Blood Rush.
Yep.
He's going to be looking to go big. I wonder how many cards each of these players brought into this matchup.
That is an interesting question. I imagine maybe a lot from Andrew if he wants to avoid being fatigued. He might have just piled everything in, just every piece of value that he can fit in that deck so that he makes sure that he's got enough gas in the tank to push that number 40 down to 0.
Interestingly enough, Andrew being the higher seed elected for Charles to go first, which is kind of interesting because a lot of the times Rhinars can run away with turn 0 because
That's
they can
true.
intimidate several cards out of your hand and then swing for something big. Maybe that means he's just trying to find, like he's taking more of an aggro approach to this matchup.
Yep, preferring the tempo perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Andrew having a quick look at what Charles Dunn's weapon says.
Huh.
Why don't you tell him?
So the Great Axe is a 3-cost weapon. It comes in for 4, and it says the first time it is blocked each turn, you can choose a blocking card and reduce its defense by half, rounded up. So usually that's just -1 on a 3 block, but if they happen to try to throw a Sink Below or a Fate Foreseen or another defensive reaction, sometimes it can get 2 value.
Interesting.
And here we see
Andrew throwing a Blood Rush into the pitch zone in favor of a swing big. That, to me, telegraphs the fact that Andrew is very well aware that this game is going to go long, and he is using this opportunity, one, to play that pummel in his hand.
Yes.
I like how he looked at the camera right when I said that.
I also think that maybe he has another Blood Rush in his hand. I think I saw that flashed on the screen there, so
I think you're quite right.
could be a forced pitch as well. We'll have to see if he opts to pummel this and send 2 Blood Rushes together, which might actually be a liability if they show up in the late game versus just 1, which could be a great boon on its own.
Too right you are. But definitely an opportunity for Andrew to start making a really nice pitch stack because this game is definitely going.
We see lots of D-reacts in his hand. Whoops, dropping a card on the table. Putting it on the bottom.
So Charles has a Steel Blade Shunt in his hand. typically this is a card that you want to wait for and see once you've got your Tunic at 3 counters, right? Because then it goes from a 2-card 6 value to a 1-card 6 value, which just basically breaks the tenets of the game. Right you are. Andrew is holding on to that pummel, instead being afraid of the 2 blood.
Oh, no, there's another blood rush. That's not what he wants to see. You see Andrew reacting with a little sigh, hopefully not giving too much information over to Charles there, but not what he wants to see. This is too early for the blood rushes and too close together, as discarding one will effectively end the ability for the other to
Furthermore,
work.
his blue card for the turn is not a 6 power, so
Ooh,
he is probably going to be forced to block with one of these blood rushes.
Yeah, a very bad.
Just so the other one does not discard a non-6.
And like we said earlier, I think he would also prefer not to pitch it. You don't want to put 2 together for the late game. So that's all 3 copies. One just blocked with not a great start for Andrew.
No, definitely not what you want to be seeing as the brute player. These blood rushes just feel so critical, especially when you're facing off with Charles Dunn, who you know is going to try to take you to the bitter end. Let's see if Andrew can put together a couple intimidates, though, and eke through the damage that he needs.
He did grab a Fate Foreseen, so that's a great intimidate target. And then we see...
We've got a blue, which is good.
Yeah.
And what's that other card? Send packing?
Yeah.
Send packing.
So this is potentially a great pommel target. I think he's still floating too. So 8, not the kind of value you want out of your intimidate, but with a pommel on the back end, this is potentially some good value.
Critically too, Charles is once again still not on his Tunic is still not completely powered up, and he drew into another shun. So he's going to have to make some difficult decisions here. And this is also kind of not what he wants to be seeing. Like, Charles needs to be eking every single point of defensive value out of every one of his cards if he is going to make it to the end, especially with these massive Intimidate turns coming out of Andrew at some point in this game.
Yeah, just looking at the hand and maybe thinking about giving some armor here to cover it up all the way. Reaches for the Refraction Bolters. A
Definitely
3 block.
He definitely wants to get value off of those Refraction Bolters early rather than later, because eventually he'll be able to set up a 2-axe swing turn.
Moves to reactions and does the shunt. No cards in hand, so that pummel is just 4 damage.
But critically, it is still removing a card from his hand, essentially, because the Fate Foreseen was banished and will remain in banish because Send Packing has hit.
Yep.
So Andrew's still getting extra value off of that pummel.
Pitch in the blue, coming in with the axe. This is what Dorinthea likes to do.
Indeed so. We're going to see a lot of this game, folks. Andrew back in the tank, seeing what he can figure out here. Ugh. Sorry, that is a miserable hand we have. We have 2 Beast Withins, which are cards that you never want to play. You always want to discard. And then a Ripple Away, which is doing nothing here, and a Wreck a Rump, which is pretty much unplayable.
Andrew's looking disappointed with the start of this game, the way he's drawn up so far.
It is interesting, though. I think there was a line where he technically could have gone Claw, discard, Ripple Away, Claw. That being said, this is probably the more efficient way to get to 6. Just play a Beast Within.
Yep.
The unfortunate bit about this, though, is that he is forced to Arsenal a Beast Within.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't want to play a card, the place you don't want it to be is in your arsenal.
Exactly. Yeah, so far some very clunky hands from Andrew. Playing right into Charles Dunn's plan of not taking a lot of damage and swinging back for 4.
Andrew back in the tank once again. Sporting a new card from Heavy Hitters, Talk a Big Game, which is going to get 3 value here. In the form of a blocking card. Andrew, a little bit blue locked once again, it seems. That is his 3rd blue that was in his hand, sending that Reckless Swing. I think Andrew is just trying to navigate these clunky hands as best as he can, get value on the blocking side of things because he knows he's not going to have an explosive offensive turn, and just fix his hands until he can find the nuts.
Yep.
But Charles, that's his game. He's more than happy to do this. Here comes an E-Strike.
for 7.
Indeed so.
Putting that D-React on the bottom. A little gas for late game.
Earlier on in the cast, we talked about point goblin decks.
Mhm.
These decks that are just trying to eke every last little bit of value mathematically out of each of their cards. This Dorinthea deck is no exception. Most of the time, they are trying to get it on defensive cards, namely the Shunts, the Fates, the Sinks. In this case, good old E-Strike, which is 2 card, basically 1 card out of your deck, if fatigue is what you're concerned about, for 7 is just not bad.
Yeah. Asking for 2 cards in exchange for 1. That's a good trade. And there's the 3rd Beast Within. Andrew just seeing all these cards out of order.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if he didn't do a big enough shuffle after those deck checks.
Yeah,
That's one of those kryptonite things about top 8.
Sure. We got the Swing Big coming in, 1 floating resource. This is coming in for 8, and if it is fully covered, it will give Charles Dunn a Quicken token. So the good news is he's going to get a lot of cards in exchange for this, right? 1 card for 2 to 3.
Ooh, but looks like Charles can't supply it because he's got 2 Sigil of Solaces in hand.
Oh, wow. So he may not be able to get that Quicken token after all.
That being said, he is sporting Standing Order,
True.
which is a card that probably makes these fatigue decks a little bit more streamlined because if you've got a card stuck in your arsenal, you can always block with the Standing Order, cycle it out, get block value out of it that way, which might be just enough to cover up this Swing Big.
Yep. 5 plus 3 is 8, and then he can double Sigil Pass and just sit on that Quicken token. But the Sink below, even more efficient. Opting not to get that additional Quicken.
Probably because he knows that he is going to swing the Great Axe here, and if he has the Quicken token, he's not going to be able to swing it again.
Swinging it, and I think likely playing 1 Sigil, arsenaling the other one, so that he could play around Send Packing or a Command and Conquer in the future.
And Charles then pitching one of the namesake fatigue cards, Last Ditch Effort.
I love that card. Never really been able to see it go off, but the concept is very cool. It's a 3-cost 4 attack that when you have no cards in deck becomes a 8 power go again for 3. Very powerful in the late game.
Pretty insane if you intend to get to the dregs of the match. One thing we also saw very early on in the game that I want to harken back to is the fact that Charles Dunn had his Heart of Fiendal in his hand on turn 0. That's one of those pieces that is going to incrementally gain him value over the course of the game. But on his first cycle, because he had to pitch it turn 0, doesn't gain a life off of it. So there are certain things that are going right for Charles. There are certain things that are going right for Andrew. But it's kind of neither player is really like everything is lining up for him at the moment.
So Andrew discarding his agile windup on his turn to create an agility, but more importantly, intimidate a card.
And that card was Oasis Respite, which is the exact card you want to see when you have a powered up Tunic.
Yep, and there's the Command and Conquer. So Charles pretty happy to have the Sigil in Arsenal as he looks at it.
And that's one of the reasons why you do something like that. Why you put a Sigil of Solace in Arsenal, even though it's an instant and you know you could just gain your 3 life when you can. You do it to bait things out from your opponent, especially opponents that run a lot of Arsenal disruption like Rhinar Reckless Rampage.
Absolutely. So really good play there from Charles, not just slamming both Sigils, but rather saving one for an opportunity to bait. He's thinking about whether he wants to block this. He has 2 defense reactions in hand, I believe.
I think it's one. I think it's a Fate Foreseen. He's got an E-Strike and Overpower. So the reason he's not just snap blocking this is because if he does, then his turn is kind of going to do nothing, right? He has a Oasis Respite, intimidated out of his hand. If he doesn't find a way to use that Fate Foreseen, which he can't against a Command and Conquer, then he's basically IP1ing himself.
Right.
Because it'll be blue Swing Axe, then...
There's the Pummel, so... Maybe he was also thinking about playing around that Pummel, deciding to keep a card that he can discard in order to still have a turn.
Quite possibly.
But it's a lot of damage, 10 damage taken.
And that was a really good point for Andrew to have the pummel because there's a D-react in hand, and Charles has to make difficult decisions.
Yep.
So Charles finding the right line in terms of discarding the blue because he'll be able to go E-strike for 7, Arsenal that Oasis.
Absolutely. Coming in, just like you said, 7 damage.
Once again, 1 card out of his deck for 7 damage.
Yep. I wonder if there was a thought there about taking some damage just to eke a little bit more value out of the Oasis. Although Andrew will likely take some damage here, so maybe he isn't thinking that far ahead.
Yeah, let's see. We've got a pack hunt, I see. 2 pack hunts? Yeah, 2 pack hunts. A Wrecker Romp. So Andrew, and Andrew is still sporting an agility token. So this is pretty
wow.
sweet. He's going to
taken a lot of damage in order to send all that back. All the Intimidate that's about to come is a little dangerous for Charles. Luckily for him, he has arsenaled an instant that will allow him to absorb some of this. Pack Hunt, 6 damage, Intimidate, go again. So asking for Charles to banish a random card.
Do we know what is in Andrew's arsenal?
Ooh, I don't know if I saw that. He plays the Oasis from hand using that Tunic. Just getting it out so that it doesn't get intimidated before he loses the opportunity.
Oh, he had one in his hand as well.
He had one in his hand as well, yeah.
And critically, so it's an interesting spot to be in Andrew's case. He is no stranger to these long matchups. The same thing about losing value on Charles's Heart of Fiendal at the beginning of the turn. Because Andrew took a ton of damage, he is making him intrinsically lose value on each of these Oasis respites.
Yep.
Right? Charles would much rather be like one health below Andrew at all times. This is exactly what we were hoping for. The barraging beatdown out of Arsenal. This will intimidate another card out of Charles' hand, which means that this barraging beatdown is getting the buff and cannot be debuffed because Charles doesn't have any cards in hand to block with.
Wow.
This is the power of Rhinar into these fatigue strategies.
So it looks like he really has options outside of Blood Rush Bellows to push damage. Oh, when did that become a Fate Foreseen?
Yeah, that's a good point.
He
must have bottomed the Oasis.
Okay, yeah,
that's really interesting.
Yep. So good call. Probably, with the Tunic counter up, it's not useful to have 2 Oases. So Charles Dunn, a better player than I.
Yeah, no doubt. Really smart of him to know that he was going to draw into another Oasis. Man, I wish I could be as good as he is at this game.
Playing around possible hands is certainly a skill that you acquire playing Flesh and Blood.
It's probably like he's probably sporting so many shunts and Oases.
Yep.
He's probably like, I just know I'm going to get these clunked up at some point.
Yeah, exactly. So coming in with the Axe for 4, being able to stop 4 of that damage is actually pretty big. 10 is a lot to take when you're trying to make it to the end of the game.
Friend of the show, Sam O'Byrne, chiming in to say, oh, good.
Sleepy
we get our monthly shot of Sleepy Top 8 Connor. Poor Connor is so sleepy. Oh, my God, he's going to go.
Connor.
Oh, Christine, enhance. Oh, we don't have that button. Sorry. Yeah, I think he's really going this time.
Uh-huh.
Poor guy. It's been such a long day. He's so tuckered out. I'm going to take him rock climbing tomorrow.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah, I think so.
Wish I could join you.
I know.
Mother's Day. Wrong day to plan a big rock climbing.
Yeah, that's why you got to get rid of your mother, folks.
Oh, geez. Heard it here first. Oh, and we've got to dig up dinner. So Andrew Rudin saying I can play on the healing life axis as well. Shuffling up that graveyard, hoping for 3 attack actions with power 6 or greater in order to gain the maximum value out of this. And Charles just takes a big chunk out of the middle, and it's 2. So he will heal 2 and return 2 to his deck.
Indeed.
Pack Hunt's a great hit. Swing Big also. Oh, I'm sorry. Alpha Rampage.
Massive hit.
Both are very, very good hits for Andrew. He needs that gas in order to push over. Both of those are Intimidate cards. So that can help him push through. And a shuffle might be helpful given the way he'd been drawing earlier.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that we didn't see him like kind of shrug off the fact that he would have had to pitch those 2 blood rushes together, right? Because you've got cards like Dig Up Dinner that basically make your second cycle not matter.
No problem. And he comes in with a Mandible Claw for 3.
A gentlemanly 3. Andrew probably knows that he doesn't need to have his foot on the gas at all times, right? Because there are certain hands that Charles is going to have, like that one, where he has to lose value on some of his cards just because his cards don't really do anything offensively. Yeah,
I guess 4 if you count the damage. But coming in for 7 now. The Great Axe does have some offensive potential.
Oh, you guys, he's going.
He's zooming.
Justin,
Sonic the Hedgehog
get this guy an espresso shot or something. He's dying out there.
Oh,
no, he's got a second win. Here we go.
All right, back to the game. We've got Andrew thinking about how he wants to block this out.
Wait, Sleepy Connor is not the game?
Knowing that this axe is coming in for 7 and that the first card he blocks with will lose value, it's always frustrating to throw something in front of that. But it looks like he does value his life and wants to trade a few cards to keep his life high. Opting to block with a piece of armor here. Maybe keep the 3 cards in hand so he's got an effective play. And it looks like maybe a Warmonger's Diplomacy in hand.
I don't think... He never wants to play a Warmongers against Charles, I don't think, right?
Well, it will prevent pumps before the axe.
That's true.
That's kind of it. It doesn't feel all that effective. So it may just be that it's a blue, and he wants to utilize that to fuel his turn. Thinking a lot about this block here.
Can we see this hand cam? I want to see what else is in there. We got Warmonger's Diplomacy, and he covers it right up.
Yeah. He says no.
Okay.
You cannot.
Okay, that's fine, Andrew. I respect you. I wonder, because he's deciding to throw the Apex Bonebreaker in here, that telegraphs to me that he has an attack that would really benefit from +1 damage, right? Oftentimes, you see this kind of a block from a Brute when they're about to throw a CNC, or a Send Packing, or something like that, that would normally not be a breakpoint, but becomes one.
Yeah.
And Andrew hearing exactly what I said and saying, you know what, you're right, Bryce. It's not worth it on this one.
Yeah, you would lose a lot of value if he opted to, because this is a temper equipment. If he decides to reduce its block down to 1 and then it goes down 1 more, it will break and he will lose a lot of value by blocking with that piece of equipment.
No doubt.
But he wants to, saying it's worth it, and he chooses the equipment. Andrew says, no problem. Taken 3.
Let's see if Andrew knows about this interaction yet.
Yeah. I wonder, I feel like if he was thinking about that, he would have chosen to block with his boots rather than his Bonebreaker, or his Apex Bonebreakers. But maybe just really valuing the might for some reason on this turn. I'm not exactly sure. It may have just been a little mistake.
It might also come down to that card that's in his arsenal and has been
True.
in his arsenal for a couple turns.
So here comes the barraging beatdown into an Show No Mercy, correct?
Yes, this card is absolutely insane in this
Another
situation.
Intimidate.
Because now if Charles Dunn does his game plan where he blocks with all the cards in his hand, then Show No Mercy will get pumped by an additional 3.
It'll go up to 9, whereas if he chooses to block with only 1, it will go up to 8 because of the barraging beatdown. So kind of a lose-lose situation here. Either 8 or 9, Charles gets to decide.
I've played against Andrew on this Rhinar deck before. It was like during my one armory where I went to Dromai, and there was a situation where he intimidated 3 cards out of my hand, went Show No Mercy, like with a barraging beatdown or something. And the question he presented me was, do you want to take 10 or take 10?
Yeah.
Because that last card in my hand was completely ineffectual.
Yeah.
And that's one of the crazy things that this Rhinar deck does.
So bringing the life totals to 19 apiece. Charles Dunn coming in with a blue felling swing, and the axe total damage 8.
Which is, nothing to shake your head at.
No.
8 damage is significant when your opponent is at 19 health.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about how long this game is going to go. These guys are showing us that, maybe that's not the case.
Yeah.
Charles Dunn probably realizing that the writing is on the wall in terms of the Intimidates coming his way.
Yeah.
And he's showing us that this Dory deck can still present damage.
Yeah, he needs to keep the life at parity. Can't just block out and hope to fatigue. So looking to maybe kill Andrew through damage or get him down to a point where he needs to block and Charles gains the tempo to end the game.
And that's where that Decimator Great Axe becomes such a problem because you can't block it efficiently.
Yep.
At a certain point, it's a hammer that is just making it so you have like 1 or 2 turns less to throw one card in front of it.
Yep. Andrew thinking about blocking with his boots. Puts him back, not sure yet how he wants to approach this.
And also, it's an interesting interaction because I don't believe if Andrew just blocks with equipment, then Charles cannot reduce it.
Right,
It was
he has to
because
block
he had
from
blocked
hand in order to activate that Decimator. So good choice there. Kind of getting as much value as he can. Taking 6, but keeping a 5-card hand. Oh, and pitching 2 reds to play a CNC. So that's a choice. Probably a pummel, if I had to guess. I didn't see.
Right, you are. There's a barraging beatdown and a pummel.
So a pretty obvious pummel here. We have a D-React and a Sigil.
Yes, indeed. So
Okay,
Charles
so
Dunn is not going to be happy to see this pummel, I don't
You
think.
will have to just take it.
Oh, and it was a red barraging beatdown, so he needs the tunic counter to get there.
Right. Okay, an all-red hand, but utilizing his resources to the best of his ability, knowing that
Charles
red.
says, Rutro Raggy.
Yeah, taking some damage here. Probably going to play the Sigil and discard the D-React, if I had to guess.
Losing an E-Strike out of the Arsenal, which means that this next turn is just going to be Arsenal pass.
Yeah. Oh, decides instead to get rid of the Sigil.
I think that makes sense. Your
Yeah.
tunic is at 3. He's bound to get value.
Oh, it was a blue,
Oh, it was
so
a
he'd
blue
rather just
shun.
swing the
Yeah.
axe.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Cosmic Octopus, how many Fable CNCs does Andrew Rudin have?
The answer is 3.
And the answer is more than is in that deck, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, wow. He's not just a point goblin, but a card goblin.
Indeed so.
A real treasure hoard that he sits upon of Fableds and, what are they called? Oh my gosh.
But, what?
You know, the Marvels.
Oh, yeah. those.
Marvels. Because it's a Marvel and it's a Fable. The CNC, it's quite a
Move
rare
over,
card.
Kyloria.
Yeah,
There's a new hoarder in town.
it sure is.
And here comes the axe.
Another 4.
Teammate Jonah Overholt looking over in anticipation. All the hopes of the Rhinar fans out there being hedged on the Marvel Hoarder.
Andrew thinking about, a nice use of the Oasis.
And Andrew getting that extra point of value because he's just a little bit under Charles.
Gaining the life. And now he says, swing big.
Swing big, not a bad point goblin card on its own, right?
Correct, you are.
2 cards for 8 is above rate. But that's why it comes with that caveat of if it's blocked out, then the opponent gets a quicken token.
We see Charles here given 2 cards, both of them block for 3. And gives up the helmet as well, it looks like.
We've talked about this in the past, right? Like the swing bigs have a tendency.
Nope, doesn't give the helmet, so just
Yeah,
takes the
there it
2.
is.
Doesn't really seem to care that much about the quicken and would rather have the armor for the late game. Just another axe for 4.
Andrew drawing another one of his anti-fatigue cards in Remembrance. Although with the pace of this game so far, it doesn't really seem like fatigue will really be on the table. So I'm wondering if he's a little upset to see that Remembrance. Maybe he just wants one more shuffle of the deck.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I think that he's probably not worried about dying, so the Remembrance can get him a lot of those power cards back, and I imagine in this position he's probably pretty happy to shuffle some more Intimidate. I think that's his win condition. The Alpha Rampages, the Pack Hunts, so you can see he's palming the card right now, thinking about whether he wants to play it now or maybe do something a little sneakier as he considers his blocks.
Connor is so determined to stay awake here.
He's crushing it.
He's in Act 2 of Sleepy Connor,
Yep.
where he says, I will make it to the end of this matchup.
Well, we have 3 casters here today. You've been gracious enough to allow me a break, and then now Marcus getting a break. Connor's the only judge on site here today. He's had to rule every single call, every single possible moment where the players get confused or need some extra depth to their judgment.
I'm always
been
confused,
there.
so I'm keeping him very
You
busy.
see Andrew Rudin saying, I want the Blood Rush. I want the best Intimidate card, the one that gives +2 Intimidate across the board. And he's got the double claws. Makes a lot of sense. Ignore what I said about those pack hunts. Those are small potatoes compared
Absolutely.
to the Blood Rush Bellow.
And we
So-
honestly, for running a rainbow set of them,
Uh-huh.
we have not seen that many. I'm so sorry. He is. Yeah, no, he is. We haven't seen that many barraging beatdowns. Oh no, he's not running the yellows.
yeah, doesn't look like he has.
just the reds and the blues.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
I mean, those are going to be clutch in closing out these games,
Yep.
right?
absolutely.
Even in the non-intimidating brutes.
There's the Alpha Rampage discarding a 6 double Intimidate. This is the kind of damage he's looking to push forward. 9 base on the Alpha Rampage, as well as intimidating 2 cards. So unless he's got a nice D-React in Arsenal, which is very possible, he's probably taking some damage here.
Andrew would love to have a barraging beatdown in front of this,
Mhm.
of course, or I guess it wouldn't matter because he's got 2 cards in hand. So maybe he doesn't want to see that.
Yep.
What do I know? Charles Dunn, however, sporting looks like 2-3 blocks. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I saw a D-React.
Thinking about
But he
something.
is holding that shunt in Arsenal still. with the
Right,
tunic
so-
counter up.
He's. I wonder why he's thinking so hard about this.
It must be based on the
Maybe he
intimidated
just
cards.
say, whatever, I'll take 3, keep that D-React, save it for an even rainier day,
Mhm.
because he knows it can get worse than this. But no, it was a sink below, and he just blocked 6.
Wow, I feel like this man is transforming his Arsenal card
Yeah.
just
So-
to make us look bad.
He must have a, I know, right? He must have a pretty good turn on offense here if he's willing to keep 4 cards. See what he has planned. Maybe another felling swing and a couple blues. No, a cleave and a felling swing. I see now why he decided to keep that hand. That's a lot of damage. 4, 8, 12 on the axe coming in. Andrew Rudin only has 10 life to work with.
Charles is probably sitting there thinking, like, I've never been able to put together a
Yeah.
turn this massive.
Just wants
with
to
this
see what
deck.
it feels like to come in for 12 for the first time in his life.
Looks like it feels really good. He's got the fist bumps.
Mm-hmm.
He's making Andrew shuffle his cards. Let's check in on Sleepy Connor, please, Christine.
Okay.
Connor is not impressed at all.
Yeah, he's like, I see 12 pretty much every time I play Rhinar. Not sure why he's so excited. Looking him deep in his soul, trying to figure him out. The enigma that is Charles Dunn.
Oh my gosh, Charles even gets a smile out of Connor. This is a beautiful game.
Wow.
This is a better love story than Twilight. Anyway, back to the game. We still have 12 on the combat chain. Andrew's still staring down that great axe like, it does what when I block?
Really just trying to figure out how to do this. I'm almost thinking he gives the whole hand. You got to preserve that life. And how often is it that Charles gets to put 12 damage together? I mean, can he really do this again?
Right, you are. I'm seeing a reckless swing in his hand. Do you think
Oh,
he's thinking
well,
about deploying that as well?
Probably not. Maybe because, I mean, he has to discard. So overall, it's going to, well, it won't block as much. I'll just put it that way.
The nice thing about playing the reckless swing is if you block with a card beforehand, it
Mhm.
won't get reduced by the great axe, right?
True. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. Thinking about doing it like that, probably would have rather just seen 4-3 blocks.
100%. It's just one of those weird brute things, right? When you have
Mhm.
the reckless swing in your hand, it's like, well, I can get 3 value out of this, or technically I'll get 5 or 6 value out of playing the reckless
Right, a
swing.
4 plus 2. 3 plus 3, yeah, 6 total.
If this was later in the game, if Charles was, say, like 5 points of health lower, Andrew might consider arsenaling the
Right.
reckless swing, because It's a really good win con against these fatigue decks, especially because he's already seen all 3 of those Sigil of Solaces.
Right. So he opts to do exactly that play. Blocks for 5 plus 4, total of 9, taking 3. And then dealing 2 to Charles. So
And Charles
really
says,
equal trade there.
Yep.
Andrew slightly worse.
But he's
the
got to be
exchange.
thinking that, like, there's no way that Charles can draw up that
Right,
crazy of a hand
exactly.
again, right?
And
I
he,
I
felling
see a
swings.
felling swing.
So and it's a red too.
But
Not what Andrew wants to see. Was really hoping for a swing 4 pass type of turn here.
Yeah.
Might just have to give the hand again. But knowing what his deck is capable of in terms of intimidates, he might just be looking to stall out until he gets the nuts.
absolutely.
10 coming through.
Well, the nuts is definitely what Andrew needs when he's facing down 10 damage Great Axe swings every single turn.
Yeah. Is this his last red felling swing?
That's a great question.
Maybe
he's
second.
running the blues, so it's really hard for me to know.
Yeah, I think it maybe is his second or third. So starting to run out of the offensive gas. Of course, the cleaves in the deck are pretty strong when you can pair them with the tunic counter.
100%. And I think a lot of these fatigue decks really hinge on those tunic counters, right?
Mhm.
How do I eke every little bit of value out of this thing that is going to be sitting here for the entire game?
So opts to throw the flesh bag in front of this, blocking 2, 3, 4, 5 probably total here. Wow. Really
Here's 5.
taking himself down to 2 life. Risky territory.
Really scary, too, because if Charles had another blue in his hand, he could have popped the refraction bolters there,
Right.
swung with the Great Axe. Then Andrew has to give 2 cards.
Ooh, Blood Rush Bellow turn. Discarding a red. 2 float. Oh, yeah, still has the tunic counter. Interesting choice.
So
But
he's
I
got the claw
suppose-
here.
Yeah.
He's probably hoping just for claw. Big attack.
Oh, another Blood Rush.
Blood
don't
Rush
know
is...
Maybe do you just play it and pray? It's a tough spot.
I don't know, man. This is never a spot you want to be in.
No, he
as a
does have
brute.
the tunic counter, which helps a little bit, but he really, if he plays this, he needs to see blues.
The thing that is going in Rhinar's favor here is that he gets an intimidate out of it.
Yeah,
All of the
that's
other
a good point. This
all of the
could-
other brutes,
I mean, this
yeah.
could be huge, but he needs the resources. 2 reds, and one of them's an oasis. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's a yellow. It's a Is that a sen?
Rawhide Rumble.
Rawhide rum. Okay, that is a red.
Yeah, that's probably
Not
gonna
what
be
he
in
wants
the
to
red.
see. He's going to claw for. Oh no, just send it.
And unfortunately, it's just going to be for 10. No intimidate because he has not beaten his chest.
Right, and he cannot do that with the card in his hand, which is an Oasis Respite. So
Those See, this is exactly why the second Blood Rush is so much more lackluster, right?
Yeah.
Because the nice thing about the first Blood Rush is you pitch a blue, you discard the last card in your hand, you're going into the Blood Rush turn with a free claw swing.
Yeah.
Right? If you have to go back into the tank, playing another Blood Rush,
Yeah.
chances are you're going to get gummed up.
mhm.
And the upside is just not that much better.
So the card in his hand is a red, which means he does not have the resources to do any. Well, he could do 1 claw, but not 2.
Yeah, he would not have been able to do... Wait a minute.
Yeah, no, because he had I think 1 floating after.
Yeah, he had
playing.
1 floating after the
And
second
then he had to
Blood
use
Rush.
his tunic counter just to
Plus a
play
red.
that. So he has the ability to arsenal this Oasis Respite, and that's probably the best he can do.
So Andrew doing what he can with what he's got.
Yeah, I think the chat might be asking why didn't he just pitch the Blood Rush?
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
In hindsight, maybe the better play. Maybe he was just thinking, what if I hit 2 blues?
Folks, you don't know until you know.
This is brute gameplay right here. We got to risk it to get the biscuit.
You know what? I think you should have rolled scabs on top of it.
That's a good
as a matter
point.
of fact.
Yep, just at the end, just to kind of rub it in Charles Dunn's face.
Ew.
Oh, he's got the balance and the hold the line. Just covers the whole thing up. Doesn't even care. And
No,
there's his third. There's his third Blood Rush. Doesn't have the life really to support this. As Charles is going to come
No,
back
certainly
with
not.
4 cards from hand. One of them is a what's the sharpened steel.
Sharpened steel.
Sharpen steel.
What does sharpened steel do?
That gives +3 to your first weapon attack, or your
boy.
next, I should say.
I got something stuck in my braces.
Oh no. We'll get the floss from the back.
You know who doesn't have anything stuck in his metal? It's Charles Dunn.
Yep.
His is sharpened and ready to go.
Deciding how to pitch, or whether or not to just go ahead and swing that for 7. Is that a standing order and a?
It is a
something else?
standing order. I don't know what the other card was.
So
If it's a blah, then he gets to pop refraction bolters if Andrew decides to live by exactly 1.
yeah, Andrew, not in a good spot now.
No, this is not where you want to be.
This is the point of the game where you really wish you could keep your 5 cards and you just can't.
Yeah. I wonder if there's merit to just kind of like trying to, I don't know, not fatigue Charles exactly, but just block out these damage turns coming from Charles, because he just doesn't have that many of them in the deck.
Yeah.
You know? Eventually the tide has to turn and he has to just go, here's an X. At which point maybe Andrew can pivot and swing some tempo.
Yeah. Yeah, he really needed that last turn to be better than it was. And now he's in a pickle. Really putting a lot of thought into this turn. 4 cards, each of them would have been great with a Blood Rush.
Yeah,
but
totally.
he just can't do it.
I mean, this is the point in the game where you need to spend the time. Connor is mad dogging this camera.
I think he's staring at you, chat. Stop arguing.
Here comes the 6 block, one of which is Blood Rush. Make that 9.
Yep.
It's going to get reduced down to 8.
Giving up the 9, probably just going to try to
That's
chip
a
little bit.
fatal. That's a fatal engagement in Charles' hand.
Oh, wow.
He doesn't have enough resources to play it, but if Andrew had let this hit for 1, then refraction bolters could have been popped, and Charles could have swung with another axe. Now he's got a little bit of an awkward situation here.
Just takes the IP penalty.
And honestly, he's fine
Yeah.
because of it. Because Rhinar
No big deal.
with 1 card in hand, 1 in arsenal is not that scary.
Just a claw. Little 3 damage.
A claw.
Charles most likely just going to block this out and come back with another 4 card hand.
He's also got a shunt in hand, so he might as well take an opportunity to sneak 1 damage in on Andrew. Charles says, or Warriors say, we can do the reckless thing, but just a little bit slower.
Yep.
Reckless swing thing, that is.
I'm not seeing very clearly Charles Dunn's hand, but he just wants to see like a good offensive card every single turn, something to strip multiple cards from Andrew's hand. Guaranteed to take 2.
Exactly, which is the really scary thing about Axe that we
Yeah.
were talking about at the beginning of the game, right? Like a lot of these warrior weapons, like Great Axe, Hot Streak, for example, they really come to a head. Like their value is shown in the late stages of the game.
Yikes. Shunt, taking 1.
Big owie.
Andrew really wants to see how many copies of Dig Up Dinner. He's running 2, so he would love to see one of those coming up right now.
Looks like not. He is seeing a red barraging beatdown, which is a card he needs to close out this game. Let's see if he can hold on to it. See, 1 more felling swing in Charles Dunn's hand.
Yeah. Standing
But
order
he elects
for
for a standing
4?
order.
Huh. That's a decision. Maybe just saying I need to clear this arsenal out.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Huh.
Um,
Tunic. He could get away with a 1 card block here. This could
yeah, this gives Andrew like
some breathing room, right?
an interesting amount of room. Does Charles doesn't have another shunt in hand, does he?
It's possible. No, I think actually he does. Maybe that's the point.
If he does, that's probably the point.
He just says doesn't matter. Clear the arsenal.
Yeah.
Throw it in. Game's over.
Oh, Blasmafet's right. It's a gotcha for the fatal engagement.
Right. Yes, that's right. You mentioned the fatal engagement, which
Yep.
applies to attack actions.
Right, you are.
Something that only chat is smart enough to remember.
Dude, it's so...
Oh.
But Andrew shows the gotcha.
Oh!
Andrew's
What a
getting the
good
got
play.
him.
I don't know if he knows what he just did, but he saved the game using that. Oasis rather than using a card and the tunic. Very, very
Oh my goodness.
smart.
And Charles goes for the Fatal in the Arsenal. I don't know about the rest of you folks, but I have done this in limited, in heavy hitters, and been punished immensely for it.
Okay.
Let's see if Andrew can
Wow.
put something together. Show no mercy is a
mercy.
great way to do it.
2 intimidate. So this is that question again. Do you want to give this +3 or +4?
Yep.
Your choice. Coming in for 10 at the moment. Maybe 9 if he gives 1 card to block.
Very exciting.
Fatal engagement in Arsenal means it's not a D-react. So he doesn't have the same kind of power to block this out that he normally would.
No, indeed. Maybe Andrew's thinking that that card in Arsenal is a shunt as well.
Yes.
So
Probably the reason he played that Oasis.
yeah,
So
totally.
had Charles not been threatening that, he could have actually gotten the win.
Mhm.
The 1 life sort of saving Andrew Rudin.
This turned into a magnificent game.
Yeah. Very good clapback turn here. The 4 card 10 intimidate twice.
And Charles potentially having to give up. Are those 2 felling swings in his hand?
I see 1 for sure.
What's that other card?
Felling and yeah, they're both fellings.
So these have got to be some of the last fellings in his
Mhm,
hand, which
mhm.
are the biggest.
1 blue, 1 red. So I know he's played 2 blue at least and 2 red. I think I mentioned it earlier. So he probably runs a remembrance, I would imagine.
This really
Check that
reduces
list.
his damage
1
potential. But,
remembrance, yeah.
you know, this is not a
Yeah,
bad hand
sharpen
in its own.
steel, 5 to 2, and Andrew just keeps getting put in this spot of
Yeah.
like, and we know about the fatal engagement. Does he have the resources to play it?
No,
he
no.
does not.
Andrew really wishing that he had intimidated not the Heart of Fiendal
Right.
out of Charles's hand last turn. That would have been really sweet because that would have
Mhm.
been another non-blocking
That
card
would
stuck
have
in his
been
hand.
phenomenal.
It also would have meant that barraging beatdown would not have
Yeah.
been turned off because he wouldn't have been able to block
Mhm.
with that other card from hand.
Andrew's got the reckless swing in hand, maybe thinking about tucking that away in Arsenal, hoping to get Charles Dunn down to 2.
Wait, go back there, please, Christine. Connor looking like the Tower of Pisa here.
Oh, wow.
He's shaking.
I was thinking the statue of David.
Interesting. I think the Statue of David is a little more stable.
Okay.
Connor looks
okay.
like a very end-stage Jenga game to
Mhm.
me at the moment.
Right.
About to topple at any moment.
Yeah, he's rocking back and forth.
I'm rooting for him, man. You
Yep.
got it. One more game, Connor. You can do this.
Did he do an all-night sleepover last night?
No,
Stay up all
because
night?
if he had, I definitely would have been invited,
That's
okay?
The fact that I wasn't made me think that maybe it did happen.
You're always invited to sleepovers, man.
no,
It's
I'm not. But thank
implicit.
you for saying
It's
that.
implicit. You have the best pillows.
That is true, actually. I'm surprised you know that.
Right you are, Kiwi Stalker. It is not Connor's fault. And it's also not Connor's fault that Charles Dunn seems to make it to our top 8s pretty
Oh.
much every AG.
I
He just
think he
left
heard
the
us.
table.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Connor. I'm
We
fighting
love you,
for
Connor.
you. You're
We love you,
fighting for
Connor.
us, and we're fighting for you.
Uh,
Andrew Rudin looking through his graveyard. I'm sorry, through Charles' graveyard. Figuring out what kind of threats he has left, whether he's got those dreaded shunts that deal 1
Red
damage
Schultz.
if you attack with a weapon.
I mean, Andrew just, this Great Axe is so impossible to block out efficiently. Is that another Reckless in his hand,
It is.
too?
I think he might want to tuck that in Arsenal
Ugh.
and give 3 cards here. This is the, we were sort of talking about this. And I bet what Andrew was looking for was how many felling swings, how many sharpened steels, how many offensive cards have we seen? He would love nothing more than for Charles Dunn to draw a hand of a bunch of D-reacts and no pumps.
Yeah, 100%. And it's got to be getting close there because I believe this is the 3rd sharpened steel, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken.
I think
we
so,
saw
too.
2 felling
So
swings
he
blocked
should
with.
be out of all the pumps at this point.
But once again,
Except for Cleaves. He has 2 Cleaves left.
once again, we have to look down at Charles's feet. Those refraction bolters are always there, always threatening activation,
That's true.
and they equate to another axe swing, which is just 2 of them. 1 is difficult, 2 is near impossible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, is that
Pac-Man?
another? That wasn't another reckless swing in Andrew's
No,
hand,
I
was
think
it?
that's a blue Wrecker Romp.
No, at the back of
At
his
the
hand.
back? It looks red to me.
Okay.
It's hard to see. can't believe my eyes are capable of that tiny pixel.
Oh, no. And Charles finds another offensive
there's the
piece
cleave.
here. Here's
Yep.
the cleave.
That was... Oh, and look at how many resources he's floating.
Ruh-roh raggy.
This is bad news for Andrew. I don't... Unless he gives the whole hand... He might even still be dead.
Yeah.
It's a red fatal engagement?
I think it's a blue,
Oh, okay.
actually. So
Let me
it's
take
only
a
going to come
look
in for
at
over
this
3, but that is going
Yep.
to be too much for Andrew, I think.
Yep. He has 3 blue fatal engagements, so that's a 3 damage
It's
attack
3,
reaction.
yeah.
So potentially 11, but Andrew's going to need to think long and hard about how many blocks he puts in front of this, possibly staring down lethal, +3.
So Andrew would be able to block it out entirely with his whole hand.
Yep.
But
Knowing
he's
the way
got
that
an agile
he's-
wind-up in there.
Ooh, yeah. Knowing the way he's been playing so far, I would be shocked if he, out of the blue, decided to overblock this one by 3. So he's in for the decision of his life, or at least of the week. I don't know what kinds of decisions he's had to make in his life. Hopefully some slightly more difficult than this, or not. That would be a cushy life, wouldn't it?
Andrew is a Cold War wargamer, so I kind of doubt it.
And he gives 3, exactly 8, and he has 2 life, which means
To the death. But
he has
holding onto a reckless swing!
a reckless swing, and he lives. I completely
Andrew
forgot about that. I
lives.
shouldn't have.
Yeah.
That was silly
But it
of
was
me.
way more exciting than
Wasn't
you
it?
did, wasn't it?
Oh, wow.
Sometimes amnesia really helps you out.
Makes for a very exciting cast.
100%. Charles Dunn finding his last-ditch effort once again.
Can we see the size of that deck? Andrew Rudin making it look like he has very few cards left. Ooh,
That's not a lot of
that's
cards.
what fatigue looks like, my friends.
Now let's see Charles.
And I'm not talking about Connor this time.
Charles is low, but not as low. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Here comes the big owie. Andrew's able to block it out, but at what cost? Have we seen him block with the second?
4 cards in deck. This looks like it. Andrew tried everything he could.
Surely Charles draws 4 reds.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and he has... Oh, he placed the driving blade. Just give it go again
Yep.
anyway.
Wow. And this is going to be all she wrote as Andrew gives up 2 of the last 4 cards in his deck. 50% of his deck to that axe.
Surely it's the little pack hunt that could.
And 2 cards, Pack Hunt, Intimidate. His only shot here is to pull his only blocking card out of hand. I don't think that that was...
No,
Awesome,
we're not.
and
We're
here
not
it
back to
is.
the heart again.
Yep. And that will be all she wrote as Andrew is out of cards, will not be able to block the coming axe swing. Well played, Charles Dunn taking it. Moving on to the finals. It sounds like Chris Iaali did not make it through that Kano, so we've got what I think is a very great match for the Kano.
Oh my goodness.
We'll see what Charles Dunn has in store for the Wizard, but this is probably not what he was hoping to see in the finals.
Definitely feels like the gem gods have aligned for the Kano player.
Yes.
I believe not but last weekend or 2 weekends ago during the end of ProQuest season, Alexander Vore hit Charles Dunn with a pitch stack Kano and had like 10 cards in his pitch zone.
Yep, that
Hit him
sounds
for
about right.
125 or something like
10,
that.
10 actually sounds kind of low.
Yeah, yeah.
So
well,
maybe Alex was going easy on him.
maybe he was. We'll see what our friend Eric has in store
Yes.
for the Dunster.
Absolutely.
Will Charles Dunn be done, or will the Kano be undone?
The top 8 is what? Updated top 8, everybody. Eric, do you want to do it?
Dauernnheim.
Dauernnheim. Eric Dauernnheim versus Charles Dunn. Kano versus Dorinthea. As most of us know, this is usually Kano favored unless Charles has some really sick stuff. He does have the Oasis that can help, you know, if maybe Eric slips a little bit. But if he decides to pitch stack, then what we're about to see is a lot of blocking and then a giant spirit bomb at the end. You remember that one? Dragon Ball Z? You ever watch that?
Yeah.
Charging up the soul. He's going to need your power, folks, as he steals the soul from everyone on planet Earth and drops it in a giant blue flaming ball of destruction.
Are you
Soon
telling
to
me
see.
this next game is going to take 3 episodes to conclude?
At least.
You heard it here, folks. Don't go anywhere. We got Spirit Bombs and Kano Bombs coming at you.
Welcome back, everybody, to the final round of AGE March Open. We've got Kano versus Dorinthea.
May Open.
I mix those months up
Don't worry.
sometimes. It's not because I'm tired.
They're both
Because
empty.
I'm stupid. So we've got the May Open finals. Charles Dunn versus Eric. I got to read his name. I still haven't memorized it. Dauernnheim. Looking forward to this match. It's going to be difficult for the Dorinthea. As we all know, Kano's strategies recently have been this pitch stack into fatigue style that ends up creating a very, very powerful final attack if you can get to the end of your deck. And against a deck like Great Axe, who doesn't present a ton of damage up front, it should allow Eric enough time to get there.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but the deck is literally stacked against Charles in this matchup here.
Yep.
No need to read his last name, just call him Sneap.
Yep. If anyone can do it, it's Charles Dunn, but Eric Dauernnheim looks like the chips may be stacked in his favor. I don't want to oversell it, you know, and embarrass him if he loses. But this is going to be difficult.
All right.
Sneap. That's a good point. Sneeples. I think all of you are the Sneeples, and he is the Grand Sneap.
Ooh, look at this.
Starting off with a...
Nourishing.
Yep, Nourishing Emptiness. 6 Dominate. If it hits, he will gain an Intellect. Charles likely has the... Nope. Oh, yeah, he does have a Defense React. Oh, but it's not in his arsenal.
No, this is his turn 0. There's no hope. He'll probably just play it to get it out of the way.
Yeah. It's a yellow. It doesn't do a whole lot. Just block 3, take 3, and allow Eric to draw up an extra card.
He's probably just glad that he gets to use a defense reaction against a wizard.
Interestingly, we see the Balance of Justice on Eric's side, probably just valuing the armor over the hat, which if you're pitch stacking probably doesn't do very much.
Someone in chat, Drifter Comic. Eric is edge going up against the legend killer, Randy Orton.
Okay.
We like our wrestling.
Eric given a
Fab.
8 block in front of the 10, taken 2. And this is what it's going to look like. Charles just sending as much as he can. Eric blocking with the cards he doesn't want to see. Pitching the ones he does back to the bottom.
Still keeping a card in hand.
Yep. Likely just pitching it away to the Crucible. Thrown it. First pitch stack we see is, well, I guess it was a blue, and now
2 red sent
blazing
under, yeah.
aether.
Or it might have been a blue.
I don't remember which blue, but I'm sure it was because, well, I guess it could have been a yellow.
Don't tell me you're going to write down his stack. I won't tell them. All right, Charles has done a double cleave, so we're coming in for 12. Eric, happy to lay down more cards.
He wants to put that wildfire on the bottom. Ah, he's got a sink below, so that will help him do that.
Block 5 becomes 9.
Yep. Oh, and he pitches for an
Wildfire
Oasis. Interesting.
Okay.
So just covers the whole thing. Gets the wildfire on the bottom anyway.
Gains 1 whole life. I love that he's using the giant pitch dice that only tracks 1 and 2 and then just puts a little d6 on top for 3.
That's pretty funny.
Incredible.
A lot of players like to use these giant dice so they don't forget to do the tunic counter. In this case, 2.
I'm still fairly fond of the Fab Metal tokens, the tunic like counter set.
Yep.
Really helps me remember.
Warrior's Valor coming in blue, pumping that by 1, and if it hits, it will gain go again.
Threatening another axe swing here.
Eric can reach that number 5 with 2 cards, and Charles has no reactions.
Probably the best he was going to get out of that full hand, yeah.
So we see pitching a blue to activate Kano. Thinks about it.
Thinking long and hard. I can't tell if he's doing the poker face, doing the mind palace. Well, there's Aether.
He decides to banish the blazing Aether.
I only need 1 in the bottom of the stack. I'll get rid of this one.
Yep.
an E-strike for Charles could be a decent turn for damage.
Yep. Helps him extend, as it has the ability to have go again. Just thinking about the most damage he can present while possibly holding back a blue. Maybe not needing to think about that just yet, but wizards are tricky, and you do have to be careful deciding to send it all, if you will.
Yeah, he has to be very careful about presenting as much as he can, like you said, in each hand.
So we see a sink below. I believe he sunk a blue Aether Flare. I'm trying to keep track of that just so that we can, you know, understand what's to come.
Eric does have an opening here to keep a few more cards, but he's like, no, I don't like these.
Yep.
I'm just going to fold.
Blocking everything. Going next. Ooh, 2 felling swings.
Command and conquer. Okay, what color felling swing? Oh, this is just blue.
2 blue, so just 8 damage.
Mm-hmm.
Eric deciding to block 5 of it.
Gets chip 3.
And then looks like, oh, he keeps the sink. Probably opting to throw that in Arsenal.
Absolutely.
Because he's got a wildfire that he wants to put on the bottom of his deck.
It's such a different pace of play when you think about this stack Kano, because all of these turns that you pitch to Crucible, to the untrained eye, they think, what the hell is going on?
Yep.
Why aren't you doing any arcane
So
chip?
much wasted value. Well, it's not wasted value when you get it all back and it all synergizes with itself.
Ooh. Here's that command and conquer again.
That means that he can't use the D-React in his arsenal
No,
or the
he
one in his
cannot.
hand. So he will have to simply block with an equipment.
Ooh. Yeah, had to use a
Giving
2 block.
7
yeah.
block in front of that 6. Charles Dunn using a sigil, going back up to 40. And we start the game again.
I mean, very, very correct from Blasphemous in the chat. Why chip when you'll be doing 200 anyway?
Yep. And the answer to that is only maybe you mess up. And that damage might matter. Throwing a tome on the bottom. Keeping that Fate Foreseen in hand. Drawing back up. Sharpened Steel now coming out for Charles Dunn. And another axe swing for 7. And here we go round the merry-go-round.
I don't actually think I've seen a matchup like this into the stack Kano, so this is interesting to me.
Yep. I didn't see what he put on the bottom there. Oh. I'm assuming it was a card that he would like to see. Probably a blue, actually, knowing that he just put a tome. That would be my guess. Another sigil going up to 43 life.
The most important thing to note here, actually, as opposed to other matchups, Eric has to contend with a lot of blues that Charles has in this list.
True. He does have a lot of potential to block. If he ends up with an all-blue hand during that combo, he'll have to get through all 12 of that Arcane Barrier. Pitching to Kano, seeing what looked like a Blazing Aether and deciding not to banish this one, instead drawing it back up.
And playing out these reds. I don't know whose game it is to lose. Probably Eric's. But
yeah, if he misplays, he could throw it away. But the way it is, typically the Kano player that knows what they're doing calls this 100% win chance for them. He sees a wildfire, he puts that right on the bottom. And he's now got 3 wildfires stacked up. Along with that Blazing Aether that he just put. That's 2 Blazings, 3 wildfires on the bottom. If he can string all 3 of those together with the 2 Blazings, that's going to spell trouble for Charles. maybe he can align a couple Oasis respites and
Yeah,
manage to survive
he
through it.
has 2 in the list,
Yep.
so if he can find it within his own pitch stacking
Sure.
to put them in the big boom turn.
Yep. It is possible for Charles to line something defensive up at the same time that Eric lines up his giant offense and maybe stuff it. We will just have to wait and see if Charles is able to navigate that. Very, very difficult to do so. Maybe possible. Never say never when you're watching a live game of Flesh and Blood. Eric taking another damage. Charles healing another 3, going back up to 46.
That's every copy of Sigil played out for him, so that's all he's got.
And there's another E-Pot, important piece of the puzzle as he pitches away his tome and draws back up to 5.
Block and play E-Pot and keep going. Wee.
Yep. For those of you who find this matchup boring, I highly recommend playing it on Talishar or in person to feel the nuance. It's actually quite interesting what's going on the back end. It's all face down.
For 14
Wow,
here.
14's a lot.
Oh, you play Kano. Okay, that's fair enough.
Fantastic. And you know, I wasn't targeting anyone specific in chat, but I do know that sometimes if you don't, you know, play a matchup, if all you see is blocking, sometimes it can feel a little bit, you know, slow. But for those who do like Kano, the aficionados out there, there is a lot going on the back end of this.
All 3 Epochs are out as well. The lovely golden dragon.
A lot of Kano love in the chat. I love it. I love playing Kano. I have pitch stacked my way to victory many a time as well.
Signing up to play versus Dunn is resident sleep. I miss Dromai.
Yeah.
You know what? I do miss Dromai as well.
Going back, I lost track of whose turn it is. I think it's probably Charles's.
No, this is
seeing as
Charles's.
Eric has a full.
Eric played an E-Pot and
Yeah,
passed.
right.
Drew
Okay.
back up.
Coming in with the E strike 4, 5, go again.
Dude, Andrea, you miss me. You make me want to move down to San Diego like every time the San Diego lot speak.
San Diego. Those guys are pretty good at Flesh and Blood.
We have another resident Kano player in Eugene that is no stranger to top 8s on Kano as his hero forte. Also from San Diego.
Blocking 6 to the 5. Charles swings with an axe for 4. Gets reduced. Oh, and we've got a glint. And we have a fate. And he looks at what I have to assume is a blue. Seeing as he just pitched a tome, that's the likely choice. And puts that to the bottom.
I mean, it doesn't matter that Charles did not connect here. He forced a reaction out of Eric. And will he play the Remembrance now? Or I don't know if he'll just sandbag it into the next hand because he's still curating his own stack, but I don't know if he's disappointed in it, so he chooses.
I think it's a good idea to give your stack a shuffle because there's no way to get to the bottom of your stack before the Kano.
That's true.
Kano's going to beat you there because he's playing the Sinks and the Fates, accelerating the speed at which he gets to his pitch stack.
Although I think he just played out Remembrance and he just refused.
Are you allowed to not shuffle if you don't pull anything?
It says shuffle up to.
Up
to.
Okay.
You can just get the card out of hand.
Sure. It's not shuffle up to 0 and then you still shuffle?
No.
Okay. Very interesting. Didn't know you could do that.
Meanwhile, Peter's off somewhere texting Caleb Margin Bay, I should have played Kano. I mean, Peter went pretty far on Sash KO.
He did.
It was just one unlucky thing into
Can't
Chris.
be too disappointed with a top 4.
Yeah.
Got a thumbs up from Eric saying, I accept the pass.
Oh, okay. So is Charles passing on his own turn?
I think so. As now Eric is pitching a Flare
Mm-hmm.
to play the Crucible, as well as an Aether. What's that thing called?
I think it's Aether Arc.
Aether Arc, the new card from Heavy Hitters.
Yeah, this was in the expansion slot.
Yep. Very strong blue, one of the best blues that Kano can run now. Gives a Ponder token if it deals damage.
This might actually be a decent target for the new AMP card,
True.
because you can stack it with Crucible and like make it basically an Arcane head jab that says, if you don't block enough of this, I will draw a card.
Yep. Charles thinking about how much he cares about 1 damage.
Yeah, we got Hold the Line, we got several other blues.
And he takes it. Says, oh, 2 damage, right, because of the Crucible. Creating that Ponder. And just going ahead and I think ending his turn, choosing an Arsenal target.
This is true. Kindle and Spindles and Swell Tidings, they all play nicely together because it like stacks up a tall arcane spell.
Counting his deck, this is very important that he knows where his pitch stack is. If he miscounts that and isn't able to do the full combo, he could just burn out and lose the game on the spot. So he needs to keep track of this. When people say this is an auto win for Kano, they're assuming the Kano manages this very complex pitch stack tracking perfectly.
Yeah, I saw some of it spectating Chris's game into Eric.
Yep.
And it was very intense. And the pitch pile that Eric had was like a second deck.
Yeah.
It looked like a banish zone, and had to think and go, oh no, there's a dice on top of that. That's a pitch. That's a pitch zone.
Yeah.
Kindle Spindle is the future. Do you think Amazon will make a product called that? The Kindle Spindle?
Yeah, probably. It's like a tablet that's dedicated strictly to Flesh and Blood cards and keeping track.
No, all it
There are
does is let
numerous
you
decks.
goldfish as Kano on Talashar from the
think
comfort
that
of your fingertips.
Product would fly off the shelves. $300 for a Kano goldfish simulator. Cheaper than a deck.
That is actually cheaper than the deck. Don't have to buy Tunic, don't have to buy Striders.
Triple E-Pot is menacing, especially when it's the cold foil given out at the Pro Tour Los Angeles recently. Beautiful, beautiful card. I still have one in the original packaging because I feel like that's cool.
Yeah, I haven't taken mine out of the wrappers either.
Yeah.
I'm a bit afraid to do that.
Yeah, for me, it's not fear. Just it's for something. It's like a card that just feels so good to have in its original packaging. It's just it's kind of a one of a kind thing. Something Flesh and Blood LSS does so well is create these beautiful cold foil Majestic or Marvel cards that you just want to collect.
That's true. I feel the same about the alternate art rainbow of Channel Lake Frigid from Tales of Aria First Ed.
Yeah, hopefully one day we can get those back into decks because as we get
I miss my Lake Frigid.
right, as we get further away from ice, it's like I kind of miss it. Every day that passes, I kind
here
of
we
want.
go.
And so there's his pitch stack. We see the Blazing and the Wildfire coming off. I believe the next 2 cards coming up are 2 blues. So hopefully he has a way to navigate that. He's got...
I think he holds Tome.
Is that a Tome in hand? Slow down there, buddy. Yeah. No.
Yeah, Tome of Aether Wind and Blue.
Okay. So he'll need to pop the boots and play that Tome to get these 2 blues cleared off the top.
He doesn't even necessarily need to pop Striders, but I'm presuming that the entire stack requires Striders.
Yeah. And you can see he's thinking long and hard, making sure that he remembers everything, because I have the benefit of pen and paper. That is not legal for Eric to do. So he has to keep all this information in mind. I did this tricky thing where I wrote it down. I didn't see everything because he has the benefit of like being able to see all the cards. I didn't catch everything, but everything that I could see, I wrote down for you guys at home. And I'm pretty sure the next 2 cards are 2 blues. So we'll see how he navigates this. Sending the Wildfire.
Crucible.
Buffing it. +1.
Yep.
Tunic counter. Coming in
Carpus
for 6
notes.
with the Metacarpus. And that blazing is sitting off on the side,
Mm.
able to be cast at a moment's notice. There, he moves it for our convenience so that we can forget about it.
Yeah, there is no ragamuffins in this matchup.
Correct. So with that tome in hand, I imagine if he knows that the next 2 cards are blues, he will then use those boots. Oh, does he? Oh, yeah, he has the E-pots. Use the boots to play the tome from hand. Be my guess. Wait, what's going on is we've reached the pitch stack of Kano, and he is asking, not stealing, asking for the souls of this planet so that he can gather enough energy for a spirit bomb, something big enough to take out the 44 health that Charles Dunn has built up, the Arcane Barrier 3, and what I hope for his sake is an Oasis Respite or 2 in his hand, because he's going to need everything at his disposal to be able to stop the oncoming onslaught, this massive amount of damage that Eric Dauernnheim, also known as Big Daddy Sneep,
Yep, Mr. Sneep. It is someone
has
in
built
chat.
up.
Julian raising a good point. It is risky to buff the first wildfire because Oasis is a factor in this matchup.
Yep. And Charles is thinking maybe this is the mistake I needed. Although, let's see, he's got, oh, what does he have? A blue on the front, a red on the
It's just
back.
all blues.
All blues would be great. That would be so fantastic. Do we know what's in his arsenal?
I did not see what he arsenaled. I think it's all blues in hand.
Yeah, so we're waiting to see the way that Charles responds to this. And there's the Oasis from Arsenal,
Okay.
pitching a blue, floating 2 resources. And there Eric goes and pops the energy
Responds.
potion, floating
Yep.
2, coming in with the Storm Striders and playing that tome from hand, drawing the 2 blues off the top of his deck, which he knew were there.
Oasis is still on the stack.
Up next, we have a Wildfire, followed by a tome. How do I know this? Because I'm a Kano main. And I have connected spiritually with Sneep, red-haired, perfectly colored to be the Kano main, blazing off the top of his own head.
See, I've played Eric the once when he was on Icelander, so he's good at wizard, like either wizard.
Yeah.
Constructed.
Some of these people just incredibly talented at the game. As Eric decides to play, or
Tome
rather
number 2.
banish the tome, and he will play it, and if I remember correctly, draw 2 blues off the top, followed by
Yep,
a
there's Gaze and there's
Wildfire.
another blue.
Yep, a Wildfire coming up next, and then a Blazing Aether. And there's the Wildfire.
Triple threat here.
He's thinking. I believe it's just the Blazing, unless Chad is better at this than I am, which is very possible. He
Yeah,
pops the E-Pot
Yeah, he has to.
to send the Wildfire, which is only being buffed by the Metacarpus node, coming in for 5.
So this is a 5 from the Wildfire that is stacked on top of this other one, which has
Yep.
Crucible and Carpus nodes.
Charles Dunn pitching a blue, stopping 3 of the 5. This is dealing 2 damage.
But 2's not nothing.
It's not nothing. I think Eric's going to need more than just a 3rd Wildfire and a 2nd Blazing to close this out. Which is kind of scary.
Yeah, I think
for him.
he's thought long and hard because like he has to rip the stack now.
Yeah, he must go. There's no waiting.
But he also has to factor in the maths of, if you hold all blues and you've got Tunic, and now Oasis is on the stack, so...
Charles played this phenomenally. I mean, maybe a little bit of luck getting the blues. You never know what you're going to draw up, but...
We can see why, like, playing Remembrance out of hand just to get it out did actually help him out, but...
Eric's mood, I can't quite tell if he's just deep in the tank or feeling a little worried.
All right, chat,
Double
settle
blazing,
down.
he's dead. Julian doing the math ahead of time. We'll have to see.
Tale as old as time is chat whining about fatigue.
Yep. The one thing that I can't do anymore is trust chat on being right about these things. Can't even trust myself, much less chat. But
If you
who
didn't-
knows?
If
You know,
if you didn't like Dory Decimator, wait until you hear about the Bolton Decimators in Warsaw.
if we get one person that says guaranteed Charles loses and one person that says guaranteed Charles wins, Chad is guaranteed to be right.
Mm. And Eric has what, like 8 or less cards left in the deck.
8 or less.
Both
Yep.
Blazings playable.
I only have
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4 written down, so I didn't see everything.
No, third
got the
Blazing is very much alive. Like he ripped
third-
it off the top.
Yep, third wildfire. The blazing that we see next to the first one was banished earlier.
Oh, pardon me.
That is
I
not-
was getting Wildfire and Blazing confused.
Oh,
Pardon me.
okay, got you.
No, the only Blazing he has available is the one that he ripped
Yeah,
off
the only
top.
one we see right now, he has 1, and this wildfire, Charles covers for 3,
Mm.
so it's coming in for 3. 6, yeah, 11, stopping
Yep.
3 of it. So that goes to 4. And he's not able to pay the Metacarpus cost,
Mm.
it looks like. Not sure what is in Eric's arsenal.
Oh, it's still the Lessons in Lava, isn't it?
Lessons, okay. Well, he's already used his boots, so that Lessons is going nowhere this time.
Yeah.
Opted to use the Tome from Hand instead. As Eric now plays Blazing Aether number 1.
Mm.
And I believe the next card on top is Blazing Aether number 2, followed by a Tome. And at least 1 blue, but
There we are.
I don't think he has the resources to play that Tome.
So now we're just resolving the stack
Yeah,
to make the game state absolutely clear here.
very good idea. 8. And
Because one will come in for
18.
less, and the
Yeah.
other will do a damage calculation based on wildfires and the damage of the
Mhm.
previous blazing.
right. So I'm not sure if they counted the first one yet, but the first one should have come in for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9, 18, followed by that number plus 9. So 9, 18, 27. So 27 plus 18 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2. That looks like it's enough to do it.
Yeah.
Charles Dunn getting taken out. Eric Dauernnheim taking the AGE March and or May Open.
We have a champion.
Well played, Eric.
Yeah.
And we can see Charles's health dwindling. Can we get the exact number of negatives that he went into for that? I would love to see like a negative 15 or however much, just blowing him up.
He went so negative he can't even submarine.
Yeah, well,
he's
we can
down
ask
in the
Eric. Yeah,
earth.
the one thing that we can count on Kanos is telling us exactly how much they overkilled their opponent by. The math wizard.
Or they'll calculate it if they had the kill
Julian
time.
says 126 damage. I'm going to trust chat. I think I
thought
have
we said we
faith
aren't
restored.
trusting chat
Jul-
anymore.
Julian, you did a great job. Appreciate you for doing the math when I could not.
I don't do the true count because clearly I'm not big brained enough to play Kano.
Yeah, you need a big juicy brain in order to do something like that. Something that Eric has shown us that he is quite capable of. I think it was pretty great what we saw from Charles Dunn. He had the Oasis, he had the 4 blues in hand, he had everything he needed to stop as much as he could, and it just wasn't quite enough. As we see the Kano taken Arcane games. I'm not sure if this is the first time Kano has won. I know they've made a lot of top
Ooh.
8s, but
I'm not totally sure about that fact.
maybe we'll have to ask.
There's been a lot of Kanos in top 8s,
Yep.
and
Yep. I've seen a lot
once-
fall from top 8. I'm
once in a
not
final.
sure if one has made it through. So we're going to take a quick break as we set up the interview, and we'll be back chatting with our winner, Eric Dauernnheim.
it will be.
See you guys in a minute.
Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, everyone. We have Eric Dauernnheim here.
What's up, Sneefles?
We got the win. We got the W. How you feeling?
Oh my gosh, man! Vegas crew, we come out here and we smurf every time.
That's amazing.
0-3 every time, but this time we came in.
That's
we
awesome.
made it work. Yeah.
That's great. So you played Kano today. Is that a typical choice for you? Are you trying something new?
My Icelanders is no longer with us.
Icelander is
Ice in
gone.
general is no longer
Yep.
with us. So yeah, I was a little hero-less and trying to find one. I played Kayo for a good while. I actually
Okay.
really like Kayo, but
Sure.
I won an R team with him. So move on. Let's get to a new hero.
Yeah.
And I'm teammate with Peter Buddensiek, who's
Okay.
pretty renowned Kano player. Majin Bay, pretty
Uh-huh.
renowned Kano player.
Yep.
So when those guys get to talking, you start like maybe I'll
Sure.
try Kano. And yeah,
Awesome.
no, having been on teams with them definitely have helped me out.
Yeah, I'm sure. So tell us a little bit. Walk us through that game that we just saw. You pitch stacked quite the pitch stack, getting the 3 wildfires, the 2 blazing aethers out.
Right.
Tell us how you felt about that game.
Yeah, so I'm greedy when I pitch stack. I like to pitch stack to the very end, but in that matchup, you really do have to because first off, Charles Dunn ain't no dummy. He
Yep.
knows how to play. I
He
mean,
had the Oasis. He had, I think, was it 4 blues?
he had 4 blues, and on top of that, I think when he said pass,
Mm-hmm.
I've always was afraid of that as pitch stack and Kano. No one's done that to me before. I thought about it,
Yeah.
and he did it. And I was
So
like,
he tracked your pitch and he knew, oh,
Knew.
okay, you have to go now. That's
no,
really cool.
no.
For those of you at home that want to know how to beat pitch stack KO, track their pitch.
track their
Make
pitch.
sure you've got those blues in hand.
Yeah, and then don't attack. let them get to their pitch, and then just stop. And then they're like, well, I need you to attack for me to use these D-reacts. And that's what he was doing. But luckily, I was far enough in that I could still manage around it. And I did go to the very end with the pitch stack. I didn't need all the cards, but I went there just in case to make sure I have copious amount of damage to be able to get over. Especially, he sigiled 3 times. So 49 life I had to get over.
One of the really cool plays you made at the very end there, I noticed that you had a tome in hand with 2 blues on top. Look at right here. You see what?
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna
you guys are doing it.
Look at that.
Hell yeah.
This is the pitch stack we had right here. We were talking about this as you went through. So right here, this first box, we see 2 blues. And those are the 2 blues that you drew from the tome. Tell us about how you, like, did you plan that?
Nope. Nope, I definitely misplayed that one. But honestly, with the pitch stack, there's a few answers I can help you get out of misplaying. One is Ragamuffin Hat. I don't play it. I like the extra little block. But then the other one is Storm Striders. And I drew Tome, which was the start of the pitch stack, and I drew it. So I knew I was supposed to go Kano 3 times and then Tome, but Kano twice, and then it hit me. I was like, wait, the Tome's in my hand. The Tome should have been the first one. So that's why I usually just let it lay out and be like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And even if you have like 2 Oases, I still probably got you. But this one I decided to be a little sneaky on. I didn't want to let him know that I messed up by 1. So I came in with the Aether Wildfire, wanted to see exactly what he had. I predicted the Oasis. Of course he has the Oasis. But then after he played the Oasis, I was like, okay, gotta respond. This is where I have to use the Storm Striders to play the Tome from my hand because I just miscounted by 1 on the pitch stack. But we got there. It's okay.
Very cool recovery. So you didn't forget the pitch. You just were off by 1.
Just off by 1. Just off by 1.
Which is potentially a fatal mistake.
It can be.
It's not easy to pitch stack as Kano. For those of you at home thinking like this is a breeze, it is not. It is not for the faint of heart. I also have a question about that. How do you track your pitch stack?
Okay. All right.
Got a special Mind Palace
No,
technique
okay.
for us? So what's
Everyone
going on
uses
here?
the Mind Palace, and I get it, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, it's not that hard. You don't have to Mind Palace. Mind Palace is cool.
Sure.
Generally, my rule is this. Pitch stack the 3 cards, right? Aether Wildfire, Blazing Aether, and sometimes Aether Flares.
Okay.
Sometimes, right?
Sure.
You don't need to, but those sometimes. And then you're also pitch stacking the Tome of Fiendals and Tome of Aether Winds.
Yeah.
Every time you pitch stack a Tome, put 2 blues after it. And then you don't need a Mind Palace. It's you just go Kano and like, oh, that's a Tome? Well, I'm going to use it. I'm going to get 2 blues. I don't have to worry about it. Now, the only time you got a Mind Palace is when you know it's not going to be 2 blues, right? So in that first one, I knew it wasn't going to be 2 blues. I knew it was supposed to be Tome, Aether Wildfire, Blazing. But, that kind of all went the way it went. But regardless, try to just get 2 blues after Tomes, and then you don't need to do a Mind Palace after that.
All right. It's actually easy, it turns out. Very easy. You don't need any skill at all.
It will take repetition.
So I do have one more question. I mean, I see your list has the sinks, it has the fates, but I've seen a little spice with the yellow sinks. Is that something you've been thinking about for the extra pitch stack power?
That's cool. I mean, I as someone who loves pitch stack, I do like that. And then I think they also sometimes play like Ironhide gauntlets and stuff like that.
A little extra block.
A little bit more block and whatnot.
Wait, over the metacarpus. I guess if you're pitch stacking, it's like, come on.
Yeah, sometimes
do we really need the extra damage? Speaking of, do you know how much you overkilled Charles Dunn by? I'm just curious.
Not by as much as I'd like.
Not by as much. Yeah, I
That
saw
guy's
chat
tough.
calculating maybe 126 damage. I'm not sure. I'll take their word for it. I was wondering if maybe you had calculated it yourself.
I'm already thinking in my head, we're at 8. So I'm not. I cannot do math after that.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. And I guess you have a YouTube channel. Do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about that? I heard you using the word Sneeple. What is a Sneeple?
I mean, if you watch some Sneep videos, you're a Sneeple.
Hell yeah.
Every time we open up, what's up, Sneeple? So
there we go.
everyone can be a Sneeple. Sneep's our YouTube channel. We love it. We have fun. And we got the new set coming up where that's really where I come in and do a lot of limited advice. So
awesome. So you really like your draft and you like your limited.
Draft.
Awesome.
I love limited. Yeah.
Very cool. So looking forward to this set release coming up in just a couple weeks.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm stoked.
And for those of you at home that want to figure out, maybe you need a little bit of advice on how to how to build your decks.
We have a video how to pitch
draft.
deck.
How to pitch deck?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So some really great content coming out. And you said you're from Las Vegas.
We were from Vegas. Yep.
Awesome, man.
Yep.
Did you drove all the way out?
Every time we drive out and we drive back the night of, we make it
Wow.
a one-stop shop.
So what time did you leave this morning?
I was at Peter's house by 5:30.
So you're pitch stacking after that drive.
Red Bull. Red Bull.
Red Bull.
Red Bull.
Okay, sponsored not really by Red Bull.
Yep.
Sponsored actually by is this your team? I don't want to start.
This is Metal Fab. This is the team Metal Fab. So yeah, I am glad I could finally put my contribution to Metal Fab.
Awesome.
Caleb's been doing good. Patrick Quayo's been these guys are good. So,
So if
I'm
you
glad.
want to do good at Flesh and Blood, you got to get yourself some Metal Fab tokens. As we see Peter Buddensiek behind us showing off that sick swag.
Yeah, it's fun.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to say before we close out the night?
Just want to thank you guys. These are fun. These are awesome.
Awesome.
There's a reason why we come from Vegas every single time. Even if we're losing, we're having fun.
Hell
every
yeah.
single time.
That's fantastic. I'm really glad to hear that. So with that, are there some closing things you want to say? Probably take a quick break, and then we'll do some closing. So thanks, everyone, for sticking around. We'll see you back here shortly just for a few announcements before we close out the night.
Keep on fabbing.
Welcome back, everyone who's stuck around for our final goodbyes today as we kick things off with just a recap of the day, the meta breakdown, and a little bit of news for the upcoming events. So if you haven't heard yet about those, make sure to stick around as we tell you where to get the tickets and all that. Why don't we start things off talking about the battle-hardened San Diego one more time. This is coming up in August 24th and 25th. Make sure to get your tickets at www.age.events. Tickets are available now. Day 1, August 24th, is the Battle Hardened, and Day 2 is Arcane Games and Events Open Series, which is an invitational, so only the top 16 players in the Arcane Games and Events will be attending that. But don't forget to tune in for that coverage. It will be awesome. Taking place in San Diego. We also have the AGE MST draft.
Yes, we do.
Coming up in June. The June Open, June 29th. This is not a classic constructed event, but MST only draft. Still, you will get points for that Players Champion event in August that we just mentioned. But no need to bring a CC deck. We're going to supply you with the cards, and you get to draft your own MST deck with the 3 new champions that we've all been waiting to see. All the new cards. The AGE Open in August is the last tournament before the PTI. Excuse me, I've been saying that wrong all day. So for those of you who stuck around, you actually get the real information. That is the last one.
Correction.
So anyone can go to that. I do wish I had said that earlier.
It's the
So
last Open.
make sure to get your tickets for that. It's not invitation only. It's open to everyone. So come on down to San Diego, get your tickets, get your hotel booked. It's a beautiful city. I was just down there this weekend, and it's stunning. I forgot.
Just
and it's
enjoy
been a
the beach
while.
while you're
Yeah,
around.
The beach is
If you're
beautiful.
coming
The
from out of
weather
state
is
or
great.
maybe even internationally.
Yeah, internationally. Do you just fly in? Why not?
Make a weekend out of it.
Yeah, yeah. You really can't go wrong with San Diego. It's one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Well, Michael, how did we feel about today's Swiss into the top 8? How did we feel about it?
Today's Swiss was great. I think, maybe we can pull up the meta breakdown and just talk about
can do.
what kinds of decks we saw here. 5 Kassai, 5 Kayo, 5 Victor. We didn't see any Victor make it to the top 8, which is not uncommon. I think Victor has had some trouble converting in these tournaments. He's a popular guy. He's got the gold, he's got the horse, but he just doesn't seem to have the oomph it takes to carry him over the line.
Sometimes the variance does not help you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does.
We did see a Kayo make it into the top 8 and fizzle out against, I believe it was the Rhinar.
No.
Is that right?
Unfortunately, what was it?
I
No,
think.
not the Rhinar. It was against Chris, wasn't it?
Oh, you're right, of course. Fizzle out against the Kassai, who then lost to the Kano. Kano's a tough matchup for Kassai, so not too much surprise there. But the Kano taking it, and we think that this is the first Kano to win an AGE. If anyone in chat can correct us, this is what our producer told us. So if you can correct him, you are truly the biggest AGE fan out there. Otherwise, first win for Kano, really exciting stuff for him. I know that Kano is a fan favorite, but can sometimes struggle to close out matches, seeing as there can be some very difficult matchups. We saw one in the form of Dash, just absolutely stomping. I think it was
Anthony Pham against Eric.
Yep, I think it was the one and only loss that Eric suffered today. Fortunately for him, that was it, and he just took everything else. So really exciting stuff. How are we feeling about the way that this went? Any upsets?
No, I think most of the games that we saw on coverage and the metagame that we saw from today was pretty good. A nice spread. Interestingly, 66.6 recurring % of Kanos converted to top 8. So
Wow.
that's a good figure for all the number goblins out there.
Yeah, I know we've been talking about the open meta, the sort of, lots of variance in the decks that we see in the top 8. And once again today, we had some good variance, but I think we're starting to see the same kind of decks show up in the top 8. Even though there's a spread, it's kind of the same, but that's all going to get mixed up soon as MST drops. We're having the premiere in 1 week in Japan, which is very exciting. Don't miss the coverage for that. And the following week, we get to, at home, get our first hands on the pre-release cards.
Very excited.
So I'm looking very forward to that.
I want to try to go to at least 2.
At least 2.
At the
That's a
weekend,
good number. I recommend at least 2. That sounds good.
Because if you bomb one, you can win the other. Easy peasy.
Absolutely. For me, I'd better go to 5 or 6 then. I
Surely
think.
not.
Is there anything else that we want to talk about?
I was going to say thank you for
course.
Collector Legion for hosting us and having a nice facility for us to cast in.
Thanks to Collector Legion, thanks to Arcane Games and Events, and thanks to the fans at home tuning in to watch. We couldn't do it without you. We really appreciate your support, tuning in, and of course, love. Can we do this? Is this
There we go. Love wins.
all right? So with that, I think we can end off for the night. See you all.
Take
In a
care and
month?
good night.
Good night.